3 teams and almost 11 seasons in the Canadian Football League, but people are finally beginning to concede that John Hufnagel might just be a pretty good quarterback. 35-year-old Hufnagel joined Calgary in 1976, and he spent 4 seasons with the Stampeders before signing as a free agent with Saskatchewan and spending another 3.5 years with the Rough Riders before being traded to Winnipeg in October 1983. For most of his career, Hufnagel has been thought of as a backup. Critics claimed he lacked consistency, that he couldn't put together solid performances back-to-back. Well, since being thrust into the starting role following the injury to Tom Clements on August 31st, Hufnagel has won 4 and lost just 1. And that was a 1-point decision to the Calgary Stampeders. His play has been superb. In 5 starts, Hufnagel has completed 110 of 189 attempts, or 57% of his throws. He has thrown 12 touchdown passes and only had 5 intercepted. That's better than a 2-to-1 ratio, and no other quarterback in the CFL can make that claim. And this afternoon, John Hufnagel will lead the Winnipeg Blue Bombers against the Ottawa Rough Riders at Lansdowne Park in the nation's capital.
The following is a live presentation of CBC Sports. The best of Canadian professional football, the CFL on CBC. Welcome to Carling O'Keefe, CFL football. And now, for all the action, let's join our CBC commentary team.
It's a warm afternoon, but skies are overcast in the nation's capital, and we could see some shower activity during the course of the game. Hi, everyone. I'm Don Whitman, and happy Thanksgiving to all of our Canadian viewers, and to those looking in on ESPN in the United States, a happy Columbus Day. On paper, Winnipeg and Ottawa looked very much a mismatch. Winnipeg won the first game between the two by a score of 46-14. Joe Moss was the man behind the Ottawa bench for that first meeting at Winnipeg Stadium. Tom Dimitrov replaced Moss for last week's game against Calgary. This is his second game. Chuck Ely asked how he'll approach the Bombers.
Well, Chuck, I think the most important thing is to keep our mistakes to a minimum. At least give ourselves a chance to do what is right, put the ball in the end zone, and just try to put a good effort on Hufnagel, and at least we'll have a chance.
Well, Tom, you have 3 young quarterbacks coming into this game. How do you choose who will play and how much they'll play?
Well, we've established Gilbert as our #1 quarterback for this game. I think the most important thing, he has been the most productive at this point. If there is something that we feel that he's not doing, not really getting things going, I think the most important thing that to give the other 2 young people a chance, put them on the field, so at the end of the season we can evaluate all 3.
Chuck, not an enviable position for Tom Dimitrov and the Ottawa Rough Riders. They're at 3-11, Winnipeg 9-5, and with an offense that can explode.
You're right, Don. I think the problem that Dimitrov has now is trying to establish some stability within that organization and the players. They're looking for the future, and I think they have to build right now and do the best they can in the game.
Well, I don't know if Tom Dimitrov, as director of player personnel in his previous capacity, had anything to do with the departure of Lester Brown, but I think Lester Brown would certainly like to prove something to the Ottawa football fans this afternoon.
Definitely, Lester is an outstanding player, and I think he would have the opportunity to play for a contender like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and have a chance to go into the Grey Cup. And he played for a number of teams, and he has good ability.
Well, he was the Ottawa Rough Rider leading ground gainer before being traded to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And in his debut in a Winnipeg uniform last week against the Toronto Argonauts, Lester Brown carried 13 times and picked up 91 yards. And since joining the Blue Bombers, Lester Brown appears to have a new lease on life.
Definitely, you know, going to Winnipeg kind of changed things as far as my life is concerned, being up here in Canada. When I was here in Ottawa, I talked a lot about wanting to retire at the end of the season. But now, going to Winnipeg and experiencing the good life of football, things kind of changing for me. I feel like I said when I was here, I feel like I still have a couple of years left in me, and I hope that I get that opportunity to maintain in Winnipeg.
You must be looking for a good game for yourself against your former teammates this afternoon.
Well, definitely. I feel that, you know, it's going to be an exciting game. They're going to be gunning for me because of some of the things that I said once I left the locker room. So I feel that going out today, we're going to put on a good show.
And the man Lester was traded for, Wiley Turner, is also in uniform this afternoon. I think he, too, would like to prove something.
Well, both of them emotionally would like to have a big game against former teammates and the organization. They don't want to hurt their teammates. It's just the organization themselves that they like to get back at.
Well, we're about set. The Ottawa Rough Riders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to kick it off here at Lansdowne Park. And back at CFL control, a man who's anxious to dig into that Thanksgiving turkey, Brian Williams.
All right, thank you, Don. That's going to have to wait until later on this afternoon. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to CFL Control, and happy Thanksgiving. Winnipeg trying to move into sole possession of second place. Let's take a look at those Western standings. A reminder, Hamilton at BC on Saturday. Next Sunday, the big one, the Calgary Stampeders in Edmonton. In the Eastern Conference, Toronto with a win later on today can open up a 3-point lead over the Hamilton Ticats. Toronto later on today is playing in Calgary. Coming up at halftime, we will talk with the head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Jack Goda. The Riders winning yesterday. Former Winnipeg center John Bonk with another in his John Bonk Playbook series. I'll update Major League Baseball, Houston and the Mets later today. We'll have highlights of a most exciting Mexican Grand Prix. Stay with us. The CFL on CBC will continue.
And Bill Jones, Don Ellis, John Middleton, Art McAvoy, and George Black are working with him. Cal Murphy, the Bomber head coach, who is twice winner of Coach of the Year title in the Canadian Football League, looking to move his team into sole possession of second place in the Western Division of the Canadian Football League, 2 points ahead of the idle British Columbia Lions. And, of course, Tom Dimitroff is looking for his first win as head coach of the Ottawa Rough Riders since taking over from Joe Moss. His debut as the Ottawa Rough Rider head man took place last week in a loss to the Calgary Stampeders. Dimitroff with previous head coaching experience in the CFL in 1978 with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Dean Dorsey preparing to kick off for the Ottawa Rough Riders. 46-14, the score that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers beat the Rough Riders by the first time they met this season. The opening kickoff will go out of bounds, so with a 5-yard penalty tacked on, they'll kick off again. Now, the Ottawa Rough Riders have not had much success over the past couple of years, Chuck, against Winnipeg. 46-14, 58-15, 42-14, the scores. Winnipeg winning the last 3 times.
Well, the Ottawa team for the last couple of years have been struggling in general, and the Winnipeg team has been a powerful offense, so that's what indicates on those scores.
I think as a quarterback, you would have loved to have had a quartet of receivers such as Winnipeg possesses to throw to.
I tell you, they're the best I've seen since I've come up here in the CFL. I mean, there's been some good combinations, and there's some now, but the 4 receivers that John Huffnagel has at his disposal are just excellent.
Dean Dorsey from the 30-yard line now preparing to kick off. And this time it will stay in bounds. It's also a better kickoff. And James Murphy starts from his own 20-yard line. Excellent return by Murphy. He's up to the 53-yard line. And he's tackled there by Wiley Turner.
Well, you take a look at that offensive backfield now led by John Huffnagel, who's coming in and doing a great job at quarterback, as well as Lester Brown. The offensive pass receiving corps, as I said, is probably the best in the league right now, led by direction of that offensive line, has given John Huffnagel a lot of protection lately.
This is the 6th starting assignment for John Huffnagel. And Huffnagel completes his first pass to James Murphy at the 49 of the Ottawa Rough Riders, with Darrell Hall taking Murphy down.
Just a quick little down and out pattern by Murphy, and you just want to establish a confidence builder, pick up as many yards as you can on that first down to try to get a drive going. Huffnagel, I'm sure, would like to establish some ground control and utilize everybody he has there in that offensive backfield and receiving corps.
Wiley Turner, the addition, replacing Chris Sigler at that inside half position. He was traded for Lester Brown, the swap between the 2 teams. Lester Brown with a big hole, and Lester Brown has a first down to the 36-yard line. Mike McIntyre was there to bring him down.
Well, again, we see Lester Brown here starting off exactly the way he wanted to play. He's got a big thing he wants to prove, that a team that trades him away that he can play really good against. He set up against his former players, but more so he's playing against the organization that he felt that he should be with Ottawa, and now he's with Winnipeg and trying to do the best he can.
62 yards, his longest run from scrimmage this year in an Ottawa uniform. He had a 47-yard run last week against the Toronto Argonauts, and that most recent gallop for 12 yards in the first down. The delay, the result of an injury. Going off is Wiley Turner. It's an equipment problem, apparently, with Wiley Turner. The strap off his shoulder harness appears to have come undone, so that will be adjusted as Sterling Bean works on him, and coming into the ball game is Jerome Erdman. So Turner is out for at least one play. It's 1st and 10 Winnipeg. John Hufnagel to James Murphy, and that should be very close to another first down. Calvin Lovell forced James Murphy out of bounds as Trevor Kennard, who last week redeemed himself in the eyes of Winnipeg football fans, hitting on 6 of 7 attempts after missing 3 field goal tries the previous week against the Toronto Argonauts at CNE Stadium. It is a first down for Winnipeg. The Blue Bombers with that hurry-up offense from the 25. Hufnagel again has a receiver open. This time it's Poplawski out of bounds. What a start for John Hufnagel.
Well, John Hufnagel's coming out right now, and when you come up with a hurry-up offense like that, you don't allow that defense to get their calls made, and you kind of surprise them, and that's what he did by running one play and lining up at the line of scrimmage and calling the play from the line.
Pat Kantner comes into the ball game. Sean Kehoe is out. The ball is at the Ottawa 17-yard line. 2nd and 2. Second man through. Lester Brown is stopped as he got to the 15. He may be just short of the first down. Jerome Erdman and Ron Engelson combined to stop the Winnipeg running back.
Well, Don, when you get into a short yardage situation, you can pretty much count on your linebackers coming up, forcing and putting a lot of pressure up the middle. That time they came with a blitz and were able to stop them short, which looked like maybe short of the first down.
Let's see how accurate John Hufnagel was with his signal to the bench that they were about 6 inches short of a first down. Well, no wonder he's in the real estate business. This year, the personnel director of the Ottawa Rough Riders, before succeeding Joe Moss, Tom Dimitroff, looking on as Winnipeg gambles on 3rd down, and Tom Mickey comes into the ball game, and Tom Mickey runs the option, and is he going to get the first down? He had to get inside that 15-yard line. Chris Walby appears to be the injured player. Let's see where they spot this football. This may have been a broken play.
Well, this was the option, and they put him in there to run because John Hufnagel cannot run the option. But what it does is takes him back away from the line of scrimmage. When you have only that much yards, a couple inches to get for the first down, you've got to go straight ahead. When you take the quarterback back away from the play, then you run into problems as they did there.
And the Ottawa Rough Riders have stopped the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to the disgust of Coach Cal Murphy. We'll be back with Ottawa scrimmaging right after this. Offensive tackle Chris Walby is the injured player. Walby, 6'7", 290 pounds. And it didn't appear as though he was hit. It appeared as though he fell in attempting to pull out. And they have been checking the calf muscle. So he may have just suffered a cramp, although they are now looking at the knee. But Walby went down, and he appeared to go down on his own.
Yeah, it just looked like it was a shin. Looked like his problem was his lower leg, and don't know what happened. He could very easily get kicked in there, the way things had happened so often in that interior line.
But he is having difficulty as he heads off the field to the Winnipeg bench. He is unable to put any weight on that left leg. Offensively, this is the way the Rough Riders line up.
Well, Gilbert Renfro, the young rookie's in there, and they're going to have to depend on him. The wide receivers, they got the short guys, Mark LaRousse and Kelly Johnson, and Brad Caleb is back in there along with Mark Lewis. The offensive line is intact with the change that Brad Fawcett's coming in to start this week.
Fawcett, a product of the Saskatoon Hilltops, moving up into that starting guard position. So the Ottawa Rough Riders stopping Winnipeg on a 3rd down gamble, take over on their own 15-yard line. Penalty flags fly. On the first carry, Jim Reed picks up about 3, maybe 4 yards. It's a procedure call against Ottawa.
Well, that Winnipeg Blue Bomber defense runs a 3-4, 3-down linemen and their 4 linebackers. And that defensive linebacker core is probably the strength of them. And they put a lot of pressure on you as far as trying to run against them as well as defending the pass. And the defensive secondary is intact. So they're getting ready for playoffs, and everybody's getting healthy, and they want to keep that defense intact for that playoff stride towards the end.
The Rough Riders now back to their own 10-yard line. 1st and 15. Renfro passes complete, but moving up immediately, Ken Haley on Robert Reed, and he limited the advance to just a couple of yards.
Good play by Ken Haley. He just read the quarterback as he dropped back and just was waiting for him to throw that swing pass to the flat, and he reacted up in time. He was almost close enough to intercept it, but he just made the good contact and to stop him right there.
5'10" and 175 pounds, and he certainly is gaining recognition as a pretty solid hitter in the Canadian Football League. From the backside, Renfro just got it away in time as Ty Jones was blitzing along with Delbert Fowler, and that pressure was coming, but the pass was thrown just in time, intended for Brad Caleb.
Well, with that 4-man linebacker situation, you never really know who's coming, and they can blitz 2 of them, 3 of them, and sometimes all 4 of them at different situations, and so that puts a lot of pressure, especially on a young quarterback like Gilbert Renfro.
Well, word from the Winnipeg bench is that Chris Walby injured his left ankle, and we do not know at this stage whether he will be returning. James Jefferson and Darrell Sampson are back for Ken Clark's 3rd down kick from out of the end zone. Jefferson takes it at the midfield stripe, looking for some blocks to form. They don't, and he is stopped immediately at his own 53-yard line. A 44-yard kick by Ken Clark. Ross Hodgkinson, the Winnipeg Blue Bomber trainer, and the club doctor looking at the injured ankle of Chris Walby.
Right now, it could be, you know, a sling. It could be a lot of different things down there. It's unfortunate for Chris Walby right there now to be injured, and as well as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Jeff Boyd takes the John Hufnagel pass out of bounds, very close to another 1st down.
I was talking to Dickie Adams, who is the defensive secondary coach for the Ottawa Rough Riders, before the game, and I just basically asked him what was he going to do to try to stop the receivers from Winnipeg. And he basically just said, well, I'm going to just roll the dice and hope everything comes up right, because they're just tough people to cover.
David Black has moved into Chris Walby's offensive tackle position. He wears number 51. And off to Lester Brown, and Lester Brown gets to about the 45-yard line. Lloyd Lewis and Wiley Turner made contact with Lester Brown.
That time Winnipeg learned from the previous mistake. Rather than try to take the ball back away from the line of scrimmage, they just gave it to Lester Brown running straight ahead, and he was able to pick up the 1st down.
Come on, defense!
1st and 10 from inside the 45-yard line. No score in the football game. And apparently there is some problem. John Hufnagel had requested a dry football. About an hour ago, it was raining quite heavily here at Lansdowne Park. Hufnagel drills it in to James Murphy down at the 26-yard line. And Hufnagel is having a field day picking apart that Ottawa secondary.
The one thing about John Hufnagel is that now that the offensive line is giving him a little more time, and he's able to hit Murphy and get the reads because he gathers that time. John's not the kind of guy to break away from you a lot and scramble, but so he's going to have to depend on that offensive line to do the blocking.
Gain of 18 on that pass. Here he goes again for Poplawski, and that's the 1st throw that he has missed as he overshot the slot back in the end zone.
What John Hufnagel is doing right now, he's just taking what they're trying to take what they're giving him. That time, the Ottawa Rough Riders played what you call a 3-deep zone, where they have 3 guys deep in the secondary, and they try to send Poplawski straight up the seam and break that zone, and that time he overthrew him and just missed him.
The Bombers near invincible on their home turf. They've won 23 of their last 24 games at Winnipeg Stadium, but they have had some problems this season on the road. Hufnagel steps up into the pocket, runs the football, loses it, and the Ottawa Rough Riders trying to grab it, and who does come up with the ball? Winnipeg's Lester Brown makes the recovery. Henry Henry Taylor stripped John Hufnagel of that football as he moved out of the pocket and was trying to spin away from that tackle.
Well, good reaction by Henry Taylor. He's standing back there reading the back, and as the guys put the pressure on John Hufnagel running him out of the pocket, he just reacts to what he sees and grabs hold of John and throws him down and causes the fumble.
Not only did he strip him of the football, he almost stripped him of his uniform. Jim Zorn holding for Trevor Kennard, and Trevor Kennard is wide on his first field goal attempt. And the Ottawa Rough Riders' Mike McIntyre will concede a single point. So with 8:31 remaining in this opening quarter, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are on the board, leading the Ottawa Rough Riders by a score of 1-0.
Hi, I'm Carl Farnsworth from Evergreen Nissan. You ever have the impulse for an impulse? We got a 1984 down here. It's got air conditioning, 5-speed, stereo, low miles on it, 34,000. Look at the car behind it. You want room? We got an 82 Volkswagen Quantum station wagon, 5-speed, AM, FM. It's got everything on it. You're not going to find a nicer one anywhere. Car right behind it, 1979 Plymouth Champ, 4-speed, front-wheel drive, all-weather F32 tires. You can buy this car for $14.95 right here at Evergreen Nissan.
There are over 4 million people living in Washington. And today, Seafirst will help 1 in every 3 of them live a little better. Every day we help more people in more ways than any other bank in the state. And we're committed to helping each of them, not as 1 in a million, but as the only one that matters.
On October 19th, the Edmonton Eskimos entertain Calgary, and in Ottawa, the Heart Fun game on the 1st of November. And if your ticket to a Heart Fun game is purchased at a tip-top store, 50% of the price you pay will go directly to the Heart Fund. 1-0 the score. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers leading the Ottawa Rough Riders, and the Ottawa Rough Riders are scrimmaging from their own 35-yard line. Robert Reed picked up just a couple of yards before being stopped. He was met by Bob Molly, the nose guard. And it will be 2nd and 8 for Ottawa. The Rough Riders with 2 Canadian running backs, Robert Reed and Jim Reed.
I think it's going to be interesting to watch the philosophy of Coach Tom Dimitrov trying to implement what he likes to do versus the run and shoot that the Ottawa Rough Riders have used all year.
2nd and 8. Pass is complete. No, they rule incomplete. Mark Lewis, who leads the Ottawa Rough Riders in receptions, unable to hang on. He made a diving attempt at that Gilbert Renfro throw just across the 45-yard line. So the Ottawa Rough Riders are forced into a punting situation as Ken Clark, the oldest player in the CFL, who has indicated this will also be his last season, stands back to do the punting. He'll stand at his own 22-yard line. Another excellent kick by Clark. His first traveled 44 yards. This appears to be even better. James Jefferson can get no further than the 25-yard line after that 55-yard kick. Greg Miller was there to make the tackle.
Well, that was good coverage by the Ottawa Rough Riders. They've had 2 series now where the Winnipeg team has moved the ball, once when they turn it over and weren't able to get the first down, and the other one, a missed field goal. Now the Ottawa defense is coming up with some big plays, and if the offense can generate something real fast for Ottawa, then they can put a little pressure on Winnipeg. But we know that Winnipeg offense is so explosive they can score at any time at any moment.
Jeff Boyd goes wide to the left. James Murphy comes out to the right on this first down play from the 26-yard line. The fake to the wide receiver and the handoff to Sean Keogh. He slipped as he took that handoff from John Hufnagel, but still manages to pick up a couple of yards.
Well, John Hufnagel was faking what they usually throw, a quick screen to his left, and just came back to Sean Keogh. There was a hole there, but he slipped and was not able to get back into the hole fast enough to pick up any yards.
Sean Kehoe would love to repeat that performance the final Sunday in November. That being the most valuable player in a Grey Cup game, he'd like to be at the Dome Stadium in Vancouver with his Winnipeg Blue Bomber teammates. Lester Brown, the ball carrier, and he is stopped by the middle linebacker Henry Taylor about 2 yards short of the first down, so the Bombers send out the punting unit. 6:27 is the time left in this opening quarter. 1-0 Winnipeg leads. The much-traveled Lester Brown, he came into the CFL initially with Saskatchewan.
The new man in there, Michael Klein, is just, he's got to hustle the whole game, and he's going to have to, they're going to count on that front four led by Klein to get a lot of pressure on Hufnagel.
Kelly Johnson and Mark Lewis are back for this third down kick by Bob Cameron. Johnson takes it at the 40. Johnson was hit by Scott Flagel, spun away from him, and then ran away from Darrell Sampson, but could not escape Ken Haley. A 37-yard kick that time by Bob Cameron as Gilbert Renfro gets some final instructions before going onto the field to direct the Ottawa offense with 5:58 left in the opening quarter.
Well, what Gilbert Renfro needs to do is to establish some type of offensive control here and get the ball moving up down the field to give his defense a break, who have been coming up with some good plays against the Winnipeg Blue Bomber offense.
Kelly Johnson is wide to the left. Mark Lewis is split to the right. Renfro being chased by Tyrone Jones. And he's going to be forced out of bounds by Jones. He got back to the initial line of scrimmage. He was also being pursued by John Sturdivant. It looked as though Renfro was attempting to screen, but Stan Nicholas read the play perfectly and prevented Renfro from dumping it off.
Sometimes they put the offensive lineman down there as a scout on those backs when they have that kind of play on, and that's what Nicholas was doing there.
Second and 10. Renfro quickly inside looking for Brad Caleb. He misses him, and the Ottawa Rough Riders are facing a 3rd and 10 play.
Well, that was a good pass by Renfro. Brad Caleb did not look until it was too late. When he comes off that line of scrimmage and he sees those linebackers getting close up there, he's got to look right away for the ball coming, and Renfro threw it, and he was just not able to gear himself down because he was not looking back for the ball.
Well, I mentioned that Ken Clark is the oldest player in the CFL. Talking about age, Ron Lancaster celebrates a birthday tomorrow. He's at the point in life where his age now equals his waistline.
What's that?
James Jefferson on the punt return, and he is stopped at the 17-yard line. Hudson and McIntyre were downfield to make the tackle. When we return, the Bombers will scrimmage from their own 17. A year ago, take on the Detroit Red Wings. The Flames off to a pretty good start in this 1986-87 season. 2 wins and a loss. Their most recent triumph, 4-2 last night over the Buffalo Sabres. Line coach John Gregory and Cal Murphy, the head man, in conversation.
Well, they'd like to get something going. I know. I mean, they've had 2 chances where they're down there and scoring opportunities, and they've come out with only 1 point, and that's not like Winnipeg.
Boyd wide to the left, Murphy out to the right. Hufnagel has missed only 1 passing attempt so far. He completes another, this to Joe Poplawski, and another Winnipeg first down. Poplawski was out to the 31-yard line. He was driven all the way back to the 20, but the play will stand up at the 31.
When you play against the type of receivers that the defense is facing today, you've got to figure out what you want to play, what type of defense or zone. And if you stay back in the zone like they're doing here, then you create a problem of your front four not getting there fast enough by not using your linebackers to blitz.
You stay back in that zone, and if you don't get to him with your front four, Hufnagel will pick you apart. He throws to Murphy. That will be a gain of 8 yards, and Murphy seems intent on surpassing that century mark in this game today. He came in with 90 receptions.
Well, it's a good play because those corners, Darryl Hall and Calvin Lovall, are going to have their problems. They've got to give these guys, Boyd and Murphy, a lot of room. And so that when they start their back pedal getting off, that gives you at least 6 or 7 yards you can pick up if you can get the ball to the receiver.
Second down play, and the pitch goes to Lester Brown, and Lester Brown will be very close to the first down. He's stopped by the middle linebacker, Henry Taylor, who leads the Ottawa Rough Riders in tackles.
Well, good playing by Henry Taylor. His job in that middle linebacker is to take and slide across that defensive line and read and pick up the hole that the running back or whoever becomes in that area. That time he got through completely free and was able to stop Lester Brown.
Philosophy still out of the lineup with Black playing that offensive tackle position. Hufnagel won't get a chance to throw as he is tackled by Lloyd Lewis. I don't think he's telling him to row a boat, but he is giving him some instruction as to the type of defense he wants them to set up in. That's Ted Heath shouting instructions to middle linebacker Henry Taylor. Complete over the middle to Sean Kehoe, but he is going to be stopped short of the first down by Henry Taylor.
Well, when you have second and long, you try to tell your receivers, make sure you go down far enough to get the first down. Because in a second and long situation, more than 6, and you only go 6 yards, it's not going to do any good. You've got to punt the ball anyway.
Well, the Ottawa Rough Riders again force the Blue Bombers into a punting situation with 2:35 now remaining in this opening quarter. Winnipeg in front by a score of 1-0. Mark Lewis and Kelly Johnson are back for the third down kick. Kelly Johnson waits for it at his own 22. He's going to lose yards. He goes back to the 13-yard line and is caught there by James West. I didn't realize that West had such speed. He tracked down Kelly Johnson and really went flying after him.
Well, previously, the special teams of Ottawa had been playing very well, and they had been putting the pressure back on Winnipeg by putting them back further deep in their own area. This time, with a play like that by James West, it gives the Winnipeg team a better positioning to start up against that Ottawa offense.
Cover 7.
Well, Ted Heath has removed the headset and given it to linebacker Steve Harrison so that they can personally talk to him from the spotting box upstairs. The Ottawa Rough Riders, following that 39-yard kick by Bob Cameron, are back at their own 13-yard line, and Robert Reed runs it out to about the 17. He is caught there by middle linebacker Darrell Patterson.
One of the philosophies, I played for Tom Dimitrov for a while, that he liked to do is to run plays and set up play-action passes on first down. They've come out in a couple of series now and started off with first down. Look for Renfro later on to come out with a play-action pass and fake and run and throw the ball on first down.
2nd and 5, and the pass is complete to Brad Caleb. And Caleb gets some running room down the sidelines, gets the first down out to the 44-yard line. Forced out of bounds by Ken Haley.
Well, when you roll out to the right, you send out 4 receivers, and 3 of them go to the inside, and Caleb runs to the flat and the outside, and he's wide open because he's almost like a natural pick, and they cut everybody off, and he's out there in the flat by himself with nobody covering him.
Although the pick play officially is not legal, I think every team in the CFL has it in their repertoire. Renfro couldn't find a receiver. He'll run the football and dive to the midfield stripe, very close to another Ottawa first down.
That time was a good coverage in the secondary, and the rush of the pocket collapsed back on Renfro, and it just left a gap. Now, Renfro is not known as a runner, but if he has the opportunity, because he does have 4.6 speed in the 40, he can take off and run with it.
And he wisely went down at the midfield stripe. It's 1st and 10 for the Ottawa Rough Riders. Back-to-back first downs for Ottawa. And the pitch to Robert Reed, and there is a penalty flag as Reed is stopped after a pickup of about 3. A holding call against Ottawa, so the Rough Riders will be moved back with 33 seconds left in the first quarter.
Well, it's a little different blocking scheme when you start using a running game versus the running shoot. Running shoot calls for the blocks of the offensive line to hit quick.
Holding. Ottawa number 65, first down repeated.
It calls for the offense lineman to hit him quick and to come off. Whereas on the running game, you've got to sustain that block a little longer, and sometimes that's why they get called for that holding, because they're probably actually grabbing hold and trying to get that longer block.
Roger Catlin guilty of the holding call as he pulled down John Sturdivant. Back at the 45-yard line. Darrell Patterson hit Gilbert Renfro just as he was winding up to throw. So the Ottawa Rough Riders will be looking at 2nd and 20.
James West and Patterson both came in there, and they were blitzing, and they crossed. And about time Renfro was ready to throw, Patterson was grabbing him by the jersey. And those linebackers are kind of a way to getting through those holes and putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and that's what they're going to do with Renfro all day long, because they know he's young and his reads are not that quick at this point in his career.
2nd and 20 from the 45. Just a 4-man rush this time, but Tyrone Jones gets through. And he drops Renfro for a loss back at the 33-yard line. And that's also the end of the opening quarter with Winnipeg in front, 1-0. Momentarily.
They can strike at any time, as we said earlier, with the receivers and the running back Lester Brown.
Ken Clark stands back at the 17-yard line for this 3rd down kick. A high snap that he hauls down and gets away a pretty good kick that takes a good bounce for Ottawa. Back to Jefferson at the 34-yard line, and he is forced out of bounds at the 36. 43 yards on the Ken Clark punt. I would think that the Ottawa Rough Riders should be concerned about the 2nd quarter, because that's when the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have been their most devastating.
Well, that's usually what happens with good teams, because you build up a rhythm and you set up a game plan, and the game plan really starts to take effect late in the 1st quarter and the beginning of your 2nd quarter.
First and 10, Winnipeg. And off to Lester Brown. He's trying to get outside. There's a penalty flag. And Lester Brown attracts a crowd over on the far side of the field, led by Henry Taylor. He's played a very strong ball game so far for Ottawa from that middle linebacking position.
Well, I tell you, I'm really impressed with his mobility to get around from one side of the field to the other. He's getting to the plays on the outside of the offensive line of scrimmage quickly and out there by himself without anybody making contact. So that tells you that he's quick.
Holding. Winnipeg number 59. 1st down repeated.
Lyle Bauer guilty of the holding call, so the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are now 1st and 20. And the Bombers still have David Black operating at that offensive tackle position, replacing the injured Chris Walby. Walby sitting on the Winnipeg bench. Hufnagel throwing the screen over the middle to Lester Brown, trying to pick up some blocking, and he works his way out to the 38-yard line.
Well, that was a good call by John Hufnagel. He knew that defensive front four has got to put pressure on him, so they're going to come hard. And when you get the defensive line rushing that hard, then you can throw the screen, and especially to a guy like Lester Brown, who you know wants to have a big game. And if he gets some area that he can move down the field with the blocking on the screen play, he can take it all the way.
Second and 7, Winnipeg. Hufnagel avoids one tackler, throws over the middle, incomplete. It was intended for Perry Tuttle, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers again are forced into a kicking situation.
Well, good playing by that Ottawa defense. They're bending a little bit, but they're not breaking, and they're not giving up the long play. But one of the things that Winnipeg has been able to beat teams with is the long bomb on a lot of situations, and they haven't been able to do that yet today.
Kelly Johnson is back. At the moment, the only man back for this 3rd down punt by Winnipeg. And now Mark Lewis drops back to join him. Bob Cameron's kick takes a good bounce for the Blue Bombers back to the 22-yard line. And Scott Flagel is there to make the tackle at the 27.
Well, Don, I know it's your birthday, and the crew here would like to wish you a very happy birthday. And I don't know if they mentioned your age the other day out there in the field.
Well, I'll tell you what they've been doing. They've been wishing me my happy birthday every day since October 9th. Actually, October 9th was my birth date, but this is a very busy month for the number of birthdays on our crew. Ron Lancaster tomorrow, and we have Art Darch celebrating a birthday. He's our spotter. A lot of Librans in our crew. Pass is intercepted on the deflection into the arms of Ken Haley. So the Blue Bombers will take over at the Ottawa 45-yard line.
All right, D.
Well, to be successful in your offense, you got to come up with some big plays on defense to give you the ball in position. And the deflection, you're taught that tip drill a lot of times when the ball's up and react to it and come up with it. And you were able to come up with the interception there by Ken Haley. A good play by the Winnipeg defense. Now the offense is now going to take advantage of that and come up with a score.
Well, Ken Haley's name goes on the statistical sheet, but it was Roy Bennett who deflected the ball intended for Mark Lewis. And John Sturdivant is the injured Winnipeg player. So far, it's been a rough ball game for Winnipeg with Chris Walby going down earlier. Now John Sturdivant is down. Sturdivant back last week after replacing Hassan Abubakar, who was hurt 3 weeks ago against the Toronto Argonauts.
Well, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers don't want to start injuries right now. They're in a situation where they're contending for second place by themselves and possibly a first place playoff spot, and you want to get that for your home field advantage, and they can't afford to have too many injuries going into the last part of the season and possibly into that first playoff game.
Particularly against the teams they're going to be facing over the final month of the season. They've got a home date, October 25th, against the Edmonton Eskimos. What a ball game that should be at Winnipeg Stadium. And then they have a home-and-home engagement with the British Columbia Lions.
Well, those Western games are going to be something because those teams out west right now are playing good football that are in that, well, even Saskatchewan, right on up to the leader, Edmonton Eskimos.
They're going to Haley interception. It's 1st and 10 Winnipeg. The ball just outside the Ottawa 45-yard line. Hufnagel throwing complete to James Murphy. He takes it out of bounds very close to a first down. Darrell Hall, the corner, was there to force him out.
Well, just pitch and catch with Murphy. As far as John Hufnagel is concerned, you just take what you can give him. The defensive backs are dropping back deep, hoping not to be beat deep, and they're just deciding to break it to the outside and take 10 yards and control the ball up and down the field.
Todd Dillon warming up, so perhaps we're going to see an Ottawa quarterbacking change. 1st and 10. The ball is at the 35-yard line. James Murphy, and it appeared as though Murphy was attempting to move downfield before he had that ball in his grasp.
Well, you know, I do some work in coaching some young kids in a little area that we live in Mississauga, and we try to tell them, don't take your eyes off the ball looking upfield before the ball gets there, because that's exactly what happens when you start looking at the coverage before the ball arrives to your hands. You just lose concentration and you drop it.
Statistically, it's been all Winnipeg so far, but the Bombers have just 1 point to show for their efforts. 2nd and 10 from the 35-yard line. Hufnagel throwing for Perry Tuttle, incomplete. He just missed him with the throw. Tuttle was being covered by Wiley Turner. So the Blue Bombers will attempt a field goal with Trevor Kennard trying to split the uprights for the 2nd time this afternoon.
Well, Don, the Ottawa defensive front four are doing what they plan on doing in the game. Try to put as much pressure on John Hufnagel as they possibly can to keep the heat on him so he doesn't get a second look to pick up his secondary receivers.
That 24-point performance last week against Toronto earned Trevor Kennard Pacific Western Player of the Week honors. His 2nd field goal try of the afternoon. This time it's good. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on the 42-yard field goal move into a 4-0 lead with 10:55, the time remaining here in the first half at Lansdowne Park. Well, I talked earlier about that home-and-home series between Winnipeg and British Columbia. We'll have the first of those 2 games for you on Sunday, November 2nd from Winnipeg Stadium when the Bombers entertain the Lions. 4-0 is the score as Trevor Kennard prepares to kick off from the 35-yard line following that 42-yard field goal. Brad Caleb waits for it at the 20-yard line. Brad Caleb finds a hole, and he returns it close to midfield. Stopped by Vernon Paul.
Well, when you're a kickoff return man or a punt return man, you just want to find a gap down the seam because you know where your blocking scheme is supposed to go, whether to the right or to the left, and you just try to read your blocks. And he's able to just to pick up, and he starts to his right, and then he just tries to find an opening spot that he can just turn on the speed. And that time he was able to do that and pick up some much-needed yards for the Ottawa Rough Riders.
Todd Dillon has replaced Gilbert Renfro as quarterback for the Ottawa Rough Riders. Throws complete to Brad Caleb. Caleb will get just a couple of yards before being taken down near the midfield stripe. And Brad Caleb in the process lost a shoe.
So Brad Caleb heads off to the bench. Well, they're telling him to put it back on, but whether he will be able to get it on and get back into the play or not is something else. He's going to go down to one knee, so it will be an injury replacement with Hudson coming in.
Well, Tom Dimitrov pointed out earlier in our interview that if Renfro didn't move the team, he would go to his other quarterbacks. I think they're building on the future and see which of these three quarterbacks they want to start and keep with next year when they come back. They want to keep two of them beginning next year, and the third one may be the odd man out.
Well, that pass to Caleb produced just 1 yard. Dillon will try again, throwing over the middle for Hudson for a first down at the 35. Ken Haley made the tackle, but the Rough Riders have a first down with 9:37 left in the half.
Good play by Dillon, and he drops back and just makes a read. Winnipeg's coming on with their linebacker blitz, and West comes in there, and once he gets knocked down his area, there's no underneath coverage to the pattern as Hudson runs a little post pattern over the middle, and there's nobody underneath that to knock that ball down, and we're able to complete it.
Brad Caleb comes back into the ball game as Hudson goes to the bench. Todd Dillon fires the pass complete to Mark Bruce for another Ottawa first down to the Winnipeg 23-yard line.
Well, Mark LaRousse at 5'9", he just comes out of his slot back and runs straight to the flat as an angle. And Winnipeg's playing in a zone defense. They're dropping back, and in that run and shoot, if you hit that pass quick, you're able to pick up 7 or 8, maybe 10 yards before anybody else reacts back up to you.
At the collegiate level, Dimitrov had success in the CIAU. Looking for the same type of success in pro ball. To give to Jim Reed, and he fights his way to the 15-yard line, stopped by Delbert Fowler. With Sturdivant injured a few plays back, Rob Prodanovic has taken his spot at a defensive end, so it's an all-Canadian defensive front for Winnipeg again, with Prodanovic, Molly, and Stan Mikowicz lining up against the Ottawa Rough Riders, who are second and about 2. Jim Reed was hit right in the hole by Darrell Patterson, but spun away from him and should have the first down before being stopped by Benny Thompson.
Well, Jim Reed is 6'3", 230 pounds. When he runs up there, you know there's going to be a head-on collision with those linebackers from Winnipeg, and that's what happened in that short yardage situation. You know he's going to put his head down and try to use his power to get as far as he can, and that time made it a very close situation to a first down.
That's a pretty good collision when you get a linebacker against Jim Reed, because Reed has the reputation in the Canadian Football League as being one of the outstanding blockers in the league and one of the harder people to pull down.
He doesn't know how to run around you.
First and 10. There's the pitch to Robert Reed. Good penetration by Rob Prodanovic. He used his quickness to get through and spill Reed for a loss. Benny Thompson then came in to finish the job.
Well, the one thing about Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense, and we can keep talking about it all day long, is that somebody's always coming up with a big play for them. And they've got so many good personnel around the defensive line, to the linebackers, to that defensive back. It's hard to get a lot of points on them.
Back to the 17-yard line. It is second and 14 for Ottawa. Dillon with the time, throwing into the end zone. Touchdown, Kelly Johnson. But there's a penalty flag at the line of scrimmage, holding against Ottawa. That will wipe out the Ottawa score.
Well, that's unfortunate for Ottawa, because since Dillon's come in, they seem to have a lot of momentum and a lot of spirit. We're using that type of offense that Dillon is familiar with, using it up and down the field. They come up with a big play
holding,
like that called hold.
Ottawa number 5-0.
The holding call against Kevin Powell. So that takes the ball back to the 27-yard line. It's second and 24. Dillon had a nice touch on that throw, throwing it over the defensive back right into the arms of Johnson. Now he tries to set up the screen to Jim Reed, and Reed is stopped right at the 30-yard line. Darrell Patterson, the linebacker, and James West were both there. And Reed and West exchanged words after the tackle.
Well, when you have blitzing linebackers like Winnipeg does on that time, the one linebacker is not blitzing, is responsible for the back out of the backfield in a lot of cases. That time Patterson had Reed one-on-one and was able to get past the blocker and make the sack, the tackle that is on the running back.
Pretty good performance this year by Dean Dorsey. The kicking game has been in good hands in the nation's capital with Dorsey and Ken Clark. 6:39 the time remaining in this first half as Dorsey will try and put Ottawa on the board with a 35-yard field goal attempt, and it is good. So the Ottawa Rough Riders within 1 point of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here at Lansdowne Park. It's of the old American Football Conference. That's before the AFL and the NFL joined forces.
Well, Tom's been around a while in all kind of coaching capacities, assistants and head coach and director of player personnel, so he's familiar with all the leagues that are around in college ball as well.
Dean Dorsey kicking off from the 35-yard line following that 35-yard field goal. James Murphy, who is getting a lot of work this afternoon on the kickoff return. There's a penalty flag on the play as Murphy works his way out to the 40-yard line. This will probably be brought back by a holding call against Winnipeg.
Well, Winnipeg needs to come
illegal block. Winnipeg. First down.
Winnipeg needs to come up with some type of drive to come up with a touchdown here or points, because now they're beginning to let some of the emotion to go to the Ottawa team, and they're beginning to play a little harder and harder and get more confidence.
Bombers back at their own 20-yard line, 1st and 10. Hufnagel throwing for Perry Tuttle. They're ruling that he trapped the football. Tuttle protesting to the official that he made the catch, but to no avail. So it will be 2nd and 10 from the 20-yard line. 6:02 is the time left to play in the half.
Well, if you take it, it's a hard call to make in regards to that. I thought he caught the ball, but officials are right there, so.
It goes as an incomplete pass. There's a penalty flag. Long throw for Poplawski. It's incomplete. Wiley Turner almost intercepted, but a penalty call. A holding, I'm sure, call against Winnipeg.
We talk about Lester Brown wanting to have a good game and play well against his former teammates. Wiley Turner, who was made in that trade and was sent to Ottawa,
holding.
Would like to,
Winnipeg number 59 declined. 3rd down.
Would like to come up with a big game and a big effort against his former teammates, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
The holding call against Lyle Bauer, and it is declined by Ottawa because that forces Winnipeg into a punting situation after the missed throw from Hufnagel to Joe Poplawski. Good kick by Cameron. Lewis retreats to his own 40-yard line, and he won't get any further than the 44. That kick by Cameron traveled 50 yards. 5:28 is the time left to play in the first half, with Winnipeg leading by a single point. Over the middle for Bruce, incomplete. It will be 2nd and 10, Ottawa. The Rough Riders back at their own 44-yard line. They started the game with Gilbert Renfro, and in the second quarter switched to Todd Dillon.
Well, Dillon is more of that run and shoot type of offensive guy that they've been using all year long. He's familiar with it. He comes out, he comes up, and he throws the ball quickly into the flats and finds the people downfield. And he has a very strong arm.
To the Winnipeg 37-yard line. Stopped by James Jefferson.
Well, the blitz is a defense that when you send your linebackers, you can come up with the big plays and make the big sacks. But if you have the offensive line and the offensive backs that will pick up the blitzing linebackers that come across that middle and leave that area open, as you see here, you can leave that middle completely open for a linebacker, a receiver to catch the ball so that nobody's there to react to him.
Well, the son of former Winnipeg Blue Bombers star and Hall of Famer Leo Lewis, Mark Lewis leads the Ottawa Rough Riders in receptions with 52 for the year. This one is dumped off to Brad Califf, and he gets inside the 35-yard line. He's stopped there by Bob Molly, the nose guard. Brad Califf, a product of East Oklahoma. And like the other Ottawa receivers, not very big in stature. He's 5'9", 164 pounds. Barus is 5'9", Grilly is 5'10", Mark Lewis 5'9".
Some of the players refer to him as the Smurfs.
Dillon is hit just as he threw, and it's knocked away by Ken Haley. He almost came up with his second interception of the afternoon. And the man who was applying the hit to Todd Dillon was linebacker Tyrone Jones.
Again, those linebackers from Winnipeg, you never know which one's coming, and Jones comes a lot because he's usually playing on the outside, but the inside interior guys will exchange, they will cross, they will do a lot of different things to confuse you.
Well, Dean Dorsey has an opportunity to put the Ottawa Rough Riders in front for the first time this afternoon. A field goal attempt from 42 yards out with 3:20 remaining in the half. It's good, and the Ottawa Rough Riders lead it 6-4. Well, as I said at the start of our telecast, on paper, this looked very much a mismatch. But so far, the Ottawa Rough Riders, except for that opening drive, have been able to contain the Winnipeg offense.
Well, Don, in a game like this, you know, everybody puts their helmet on the same way. And technically, and on paper, as you said, Winnipeg should be far ahead in this game. But emotions start running high out there, and players come up with some of their big efforts when they're expected to lose.
Winnipeg scrimmaging 1st and 10 from the 35-yard line. Lester Brown won't go anywhere. He draws a crowd as he got back to the line of scrimmage. Greg Marshall was the first to make contact with him. So it will be 2nd and 10 Winnipeg when we return to Lansdowne Park. At halftime, Brian Williams will have highlights of yesterday's 29-11 Saskatchewan win over Montreal. John Bonk will also be by with his playbook, and we'll update other activities in the world of sport this Thanksgiving holiday. We'll have CompuStats and highlights of the first half of this afternoon's game.
I think somebody slipped off. They just, knocked it that way.
Second and 10. Poplawski is open at the midfield stripe. Mike McIntyre made the tackle. You can't give John Hufnagel that amount of time.
Well, that's the key to John Hufnagel's play, to have time, because he's such a general out there that he can read defenses and make the secondary read and pick up another receiver down the field.
In that hurry-up offense, Winnipeg 1st and 10 from the 35-yard line. A gain of 20 on that strike from Hufnagel to Poplawski. Hufnagel to the sidelines, and Murphy takes it out of bounds with a gain of 9, forced out by Calvin Lovell.
Again, we see that same play where he's just running down 8 to 10 yards and breaking out to the outside, and defensive backs are giving him a lot of room. They don't want to get beat deep, so they're backing off. Those defensive backs are backing off and giving them the short passes in front of them. The theory behind that is you can bend, but don't break.
A gain of 9 at 2nd and 1. Lester Brown trying to go over the top, and he should have a first down. Henry Taylor met him in midair. That reception for James Murphy was his 5th of the game. He came into this contest as the leading receiver in the CFL with 90. And it looks very much as though he is going to establish a reception record this year in the Canadian Football League.
Well, he's had a great year so far, and I'm sure that they would like to continually work with him as that receiver out there, and hope he stays healthy right through the playoffs.
Lester Brown got the first down. It's 1st and 10 Winnipeg from just inside the 45. Hufnagel got away from Marshall and dumps it off to Jeff Boyd. A gain of about 6. The Bombers were fortunate there that Hufnagel was able to step away from Greg Marshall.
Well, they came on with a full blitz that time, and everybody was in there, and Hufnagel was able to just elude them enough time to get that ball off to Boyd.
2nd and 4, Winnipeg. Hufnagel over the middle, first down to Poplawski inside the 20-yard line. It looked as though Hufnagel was trying to go to the flat and then couldn't find a receiver there, came back across the middle, and Poplawski was open with a good catch at the 19.
Well, John just made 2 reads. First, he was going to hit Hufnagel farther out to the right, and then the linebacker got in his view, and he brought his arm back down and pumped. As he's looking now, he's ready to throw, but he finds that there's coverage there. Then he's able to take another read and wait till Poplawski passes the other linebacker and get into the end zone. And the pressure is on him by Marshall. As you see some of the times when a quarterback's going back here to pass and the ball leaves your hand, everybody's watching the ball. That's what happens in a lot of cases.
Sometimes pay the price for admiring your work. Joe Poplawski with his 4th catch of the day for 60 yards as Michel Bourgeot goes off to that Ottawa bench. Ron Engelson will take his spot at defensive tackle. Basically, the Rough Riders have been operating with a 4-2-6 defense. The pass complete to Lester Brown. There's a penalty flag in the play. Brown gets to the end zone, but it may be called back. I'm sure it will by a holding call against Winnipeg.
Well, that's unfortunate for Lester Brown because we talked about him in the opening looking to have a big game against his former teammates. He was excited. He had made some comments before about how he would like to come back and play well against Ottawa, and now it was the opportunity to do so, and he comes up with a touchdown, and now it's called back.
Both sides have now had a major score called back. An interference call against Winnipeg. Let's find out who it was against.
Pass interference, Winnipeg number 39.
Sean Kehoe was guilty of the interference. So that wipes out the Lester Brown touchdown and takes the ball back to the 29-yard line. It's 1st and 20 with 1:19 remaining in the half. Ottawa leads by a score of 6-4. Penalty flag again as Hufnagel is sacked by Lloyd Lewis. I think there'll also be a holding call against David Black, but with the sack by Lewis, it will probably be wiped out.
Well, when you're dropping back and they're putting a lot of pressure, you got a new offensive tackle in there who was not as experienced as Chris Walby was in there before. Now you got a problem because you got a young guy coming up against some of these experienced people on the defensive line, and he's going to sacrifice a good block sometimes and grab.
Well, they actually fingered the man on the other side of the line, Richard Nemeth, for the holding call back at the 35-yard line. Hufnagel dumping it off to Lester Brown. Lester Brown with a couple of moves on the sidelines, and he's taken down at the 22 by Darrell Hall. So on 3rd down and 53 seconds remaining in the half, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will send in the field goal unit, and Ron Engelson is the injured Ottawa player. Earlier, Michel Bourgeot was shaken up, replaced by Engelson, and now Engelson is down.
I know we talked about Lester Brown and his intensity and involvement in this game.
I got it.
Yesterday, he was very enthusiastic about playing against Ottawa and playing especially with the contender in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He had been playing with other teams where he's not been in a playoff situation. Now he found himself in a playoff situation, and the atmosphere is entirely different when you're playing with a winning team versus a losing team.
Well, he was with a winning team in '84 with the Toronto Argonauts the year that he had those 18 touchdowns. However, the Toronto Argonauts in the '84 season had the disappointment of missing a trip to the Grey Cup and that playoff loss. Field goal by Trevor Kennard. It's good as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers regain a 1-point lead with 43 seconds left to play in the first half. So Kennard, who had 24 points last week against Toronto, has all 7 Winnipeg points this afternoon.
Well, I know Winnipeg is not very happy with what's happening with their offense right now, not being able to put any touchdowns on the board, and they would like to do something in the sparse Ottawa crowd that's here today. They're very enthusiastic about the way the Ottawa team is playing, both offensively and defensively right now.
The Ottawa Rough Riders will scrimmage 1st and 10 from the 35-yard line with 43 seconds remaining. Trevor Kennard and Dean Dorsey have combined for the 13 points on the board. Winnipeg leading 7-6. 2 field goals by Dorsey, 2 field goals and a single by Trevor Kennard. Wide open is Johnson. And he gets to the Winnipeg 35-yard line before being stopped by Ken Haley.
Well, that was just a blown coverage that time. 2 men went with number 23, Brad Caleb, and that left him wide open down the middle. Quarterback drops back, looking on your onside to the front side, and this is what we call a throwback, where you throw back down the middle of the seam, and he's wide open, and is able to pick up a necessary yardage for the first down and keep the drive going.
1st and 10, Ottawa at the Winnipeg 35-yard line. Dillon was looking over the middle for Robert Reed. It falls short with 19 seconds left. 2nd and 10, Ottawa. I talked about the lack of stature of the other receivers. The new addition, Kelly Johnson, is the smallest of them all at 5'8".
Well, I don't know what it is about throwing the short receivers, because I know it'd be very difficult to throw down into the ground with 5'8" and 5'9" receivers to throw to.
2nd and 10. Dillon trying to step up into the pocket. He's hit from behind and dropped back at the 38-yard line with 13 seconds left. And on 3rd down, Dean Dorsey will attempt his 3rd field goal of the game.
Well, that's the type of sack you attribute to the defensive secondary with their coverage. He had enough time back there to look for your primary receiver and your secondary receiver, but evidently no one was open, and he didn't release the ball and was sacked by the defensive line.
Dorsey is 2 for 2. If he can make it 3 for 3, he will send the Ottawa Rough Riders to the dressing room with the halftime lead, as this will be the final play, barring penalty, of the opening half here at Lansdowne Park. It's good. So the Ottawa Rough Riders, something of a surprise through the first half of this CFL encounter in the nation's capital. They head to the dressing room with a 9-7 lead over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Now let's go to CFL control, and here's Brian Williams.
All right, thank you, Don Whitman. Coming up at halftime, we will talk with Saskatchewan head coach Jack Goda. John Bonk will have another in his John Bonk Playbook series. I'll update other happenings. Mets and Houston going at it later this afternoon. And we will have a very special report on a most exciting Mexican Grand Prix. Stay with us. Our halftime show up next. CFL on CBC continues. It is halftime. Big surprise. The Ottawa Rough Riders leading the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. One game played yesterday out at Taylor Field in Regina really didn't mean anything for Montreal. Important for Saskatchewan. They still have a shot at catching Calgary. They trail the Stampeders by 3. Let's have a look at the highlights from yesterday. I tell you, great weather for football in the prairies yesterday. Bright sunshine, just over 40 degrees. The much-traveled Bernard Quarles in the first quarter, 30-yarder to Tony Dennis. They missed the convert 6-0. In the third quarter, Joe Paupow out of the shotgun to Ray Elgard, 8-yarder capping a 75-yard drive, 22-6 for Saskatchewan. In the fourth quarter, Harry Skipper makes the interception. Lewis has replaced Brian Ransom at quarterback for Montreal. Here it is, good interception by Skipper, just back from the NFL. First time he has played against his former Montreal teammates. The shoving bad feelings, Jack Goda, you know, was happy.
I thought that we were doing some things pretty good. And then when Joe came in and we got a quick turnaround and started moving the ball pretty well, I felt that we were running the ball as long as we tried to stay inside. We got to remember this, that Montreal's front seven, and there's some tough guys there, you know, but we were still moving the ball, and then we kind of deviated from that. When we tried to go outside, we got it stuffed, you know. But other than that, I felt that when Joe came in, he also threw the ball pretty well.
Riders trail the Stampeders by 3. Both teams with 4 games to play. Calgary home today to Toronto. By the way, Saskatchewan plays in Calgary Halloween night, October the 31st. All right, John Bonk, the former center with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It is time once again for your playbook.
Chess is a game that employs strategy and the anticipation of your opponent's next move. Football can and often has been compared to a game of chess. Both coaches and players study the moves of their opponents to come up with the game plan that will counter the other's every move. Like chess, football is a game, and unless you understand the rules of the game, chances are you won't play along, and certainly you can't appreciate or enjoy the efforts of the players. So what can be done to educate fans to get the most enjoyment out of watching this complicated sport? How about a football clinic for women? 40 very enthusiastic women hit the books last spring to learn more about the game they love.
I knew nothing about football, absolutely nothing, and I realized that millions of people couldn't be wrong, so I was curious.
I took the football course because there's a group of my friends, and we all go to football games together. We enjoy them. So when one of the women suggested we take the course, I thought it'd be fun to do something and learn about a game that I enjoy watching.
I used to go to the games with my husband, and we'd be watching the game, and he'd really be enjoying it, and it's okay. And then there'd be a touchdown. He'd say, "Did you see that?" And I'd say, "No." I kept missing the key plays. I'd be watching the wrong player at the wrong time. I missed the whole game.
I was tired of sitting in the stands and saying to people beside me what happened there. And I found after a while I wouldn't say it, so I was in the dark. And now I do understand a lot more of what's going on, what plays are happening when and why.
Okay, today we're going to talk about a trap play, in particular to one side. It'll be 49. Trap. Okay, everybody remember what a trap black was? Yeah, okay. The football clinic offered blackboard instruction on plays in football. Each play was backed up with video illustration. There was a hands-on introduction to equipment and appearances by players, management, and medical staff. Workbooks were provided which included diagrams on which plays could be illustrated as well as basic notes taken. Give me one example of something that you learned that you didn't know that much about before.
Defense and I've heard of man-to-man defense and zone defense. I had no idea what they are, and now I can see it.
Also, what I found really interesting, I think, was when you brought Paul Robson in, and he explained the contract, the waivers, and stuff like that, which I'd had no idea about before. I mean, it was just a word used, you know.
I enjoyed learning about, not really the politics, I guess, but what goes on behind the scenes, trading players. I also enjoyed hearing about the injuries that players receive, what you can do to prevent injuries, what happens after somebody has been injured.
I can sit there and talk to the people in the stands and not feel as though I'm asking dumb questions, or I can answer the questions without saying, hey, you know, like, I know the answer. You know, I took the course. I know the answer, without feeling dumb about it.
So if you're interested in finding out more about this game, why not contact the football team in your area and see what literature or programs they offer.
Thank you, John. The crew in the studio here voted unanimously. We bring the women down to our Toronto studios, and they can report on the first half of the game. Stay with us. Lots more to come. We'll update Formula One racing and baseball as our halftime show continues. All right, I see that Don Whitman has finished that turkey sandwich, so right now let's return it live to Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. Whit?
Brian, I want to know how you are aware of that. You must have spies here in the press box at Lansdowne Park. Well, the Ottawa Rough Riders, surprisingly, leading the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The kickers have accounted for all of the scoring in a 9-7 advantage for the Rough Riders. Statistically, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had an early edge as John Hufnagel completed 14 of 19 attempts, but then with Todd Dillon replacing starter Gilbert Renfro, he has improved the Ottawa statistics, and they now have 141 yards in net offense, 132 passing yards. Both sides had a touchdown called back, Todd Dillon to Kelly Johnson for the Ottawa Rough Riders, and then Winnipeg's John Hufnagel to Lester Brown. This was the result of an interference call that was assessed against Sean Kehoe. So both sides with a touchdown called back. Both teams with the field goal kickers accounting for all of the scoring. Dean Dorsey so far leading Trevor Kennard by a margin of 9-7. That's the way it stands after 30 minutes in this Thanksgiving Day game here in the nation's capital. We'll return with more of our second half intermission right after we pause for this message. In Montreal last week as the Alouettes upset the BC Lions. Is this game developing a similar pattern?
Well, Don, I think so. Right now, the Winnipeg team seems to be a little, offense especially seems to be a little flatter, and Ottawa is playing a lot more emotional offensively and defensively.
Well, the Ottawa Rough Riders lead it by a score of 9-7. The Bombers unable to capitalize on a couple of great opportunities. A first series drive and then an interception by Ken Haley.
Well, the defenses have been coming up pretty big, as you would know, with the score being 9-7. In this particular play, the defensive struggle comes out where Roy Bennett deflects a pass thrown to Mark Lewis, and it's intercepted by Ken Haley. So that's one of the big plays as far as the defenses have been coming up. But the Ottawa team now have come back and not been able to cap it off with any touchdowns, but they've been able to come up with some big plays by Todd Dillon once he entered into the game. And he's coming into the game and he reads well back in there once he gets enough time and hits Lewis over the middle for enough yards to give them a first down. But they were not able to cap it off with a touchdown and had to settle for a field goal to give them a 6-4 lead. The next one is another long pass right before the half ended when Ottawa was moving up the field, a long strike right up the middle, up the seam, where there seemed to be a blown coverage by the Winnipeg secondary. This allowed them to kick the other field goal to take the lead.
And to start the second half, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers kicking off to the Ottawa Rough Riders, and they return it. Robert Reed getting to the 40-yard line after that 49-yard Trevor Kennard kickoff. Now, Cal Murphy has to be concerned with the way his team has performed in this first half, and also with the injuries to John Sturdivant and Chris Walby. John Sturdivant, however, has returned to his defensive end position, but we don't see Chris Walby back on that Winnipeg Blue Bomber bench. Dillon looking over the middle, incomplete. I'm not sure whether it was Bruce or Kelly Johnson the pass was intended for, but it fell between them, and it will be 2nd and 10.
Go!
At the Winnipeg bench, Jeff Boyd is the player being treated by Ross Hodgkinson.
Well, what they're doing there is just stretching out the hamstring muscles before he gets back into the offense. You come in from the sidelines and you're cold, and you don't have a lot of time to warm up again.
2nd and 10, Ottawa. Hand off to Jim Reed. Reed looking for a first down. He should have it. Tackled by Ken Haley. And when Jim Reed gets up ahead of steam, he's a tough man to stop.
Well, he's strong at 6'3", 230 pounds. He doesn't have the ability to move around people. So when you get close to Jim Reed, you can count on him putting his head down and try to run on you. It's just a draw play. The quarterback brings the ball back to the running back, and he finds the hole and gets as many yards as possible.
1st and 10, Ottawa. The Rough Riders at their own 50-yard line. Penalty flag. Dillon going deep for Kelly Johnson. He can't hang on. Johnson disappointed that he failed to make the catch. He would have been even more disappointed had he made the catch, scored a touchdown, and then seen the flag that was going to call it back regardless because of a holding call.
Well, we've had several holding calls made so far in this game on both teams, and what happens is the pressure's being put on so good by those defensive front line people as well as the linebackers that people are grabbing.
Holding Ottawa number 69. First down repeated.
Jerry Dobrovolny was guilty of the holding call. That takes the ball back to the 40-yard line.
If you take a look at number 69, you can see him just grabbing the shirt. You can't grab the shirt. Sometimes those offensive linemen get their hands in there. You can keep it open. But once you start grabbing hold, the referees catch it, and that's where the flag goes.
Dobrovolny hauled down Darrell Patterson, the linebacker, and making the tackle, Tyrone Jones, the linebacker, on Robert Reed. Back at the 35-yard line. Just when it appears as though the Rough Riders may be getting something going offensively, that Winnipeg defense rises up and says, you're not going any further. As a matter of fact, they've driven the Rough Riders back.
have a quick one.
All right, baby, let's go to one.
From the 35-yard line, it's 2nd and 25. Dillon's in trouble again, gets the pass away. Robert Reed makes the catch and is stopped at the 43-yard line by Darrell Patterson.
That time the linebackers with the 2nd and 20 or so yards to go know that they're going to play zone. So they're going to drop back and let them catch anything in front of them as long as they don't get enough yards to get that first down.
Ken Clark will stand back at his own 28-yard line. There's an injured Winnipeg player. Ty Jones is down, and that's the reason for the delay. Has he broken his knee brace, or is that just the strap that has come undone? Well, it appears the strap has come off. I was going to say if he had broken that knee brace, that would have been some collision he was involved in. However, Ty Jones is up and walking off, and I think we'll see him back in action. James Jefferson is back for this 3rd down kick by Ken Clark. He's being joined by Sampson. Good kick by Clark. Jefferson had a little trouble handling that football at the 20-yard line, and he is stopped at the 22. A 48-yard kick that time by Ken Clark. Rough Riders hanging on to a 2-point lead over Winnipeg. Statistically, both quarterbacks, Hufnagel and Dillon, are enjoying good afternoons, but they haven't been able to put the ball in the end zone.
Well, I think one of the big plays of the game that sometimes gets overlooked is that first series when John Hufnagel moved them down there, and they weren't able to come up with that first down on the 15 when they tried to get it and turn the ball over the olive. They could have got some points there. Could be a different story.
From their own 22, it's 1st and 10, Winnipeg. Hufnagel gets protection. He's got Boyd open. First down to the 45-yard line.
Good protection for John Hufnagel. He's a different type of quarterback than a Tommy Clements. A Tommy Clements or Matt Dunnigan or quarterbacks like that can buy more time for themselves by moving around in that pocket. John is going to be back there, and the defensive line knows it, so the offensive line has to come up big and give him a little added protection when he's back there in the drop-back position.
1st and 10, the Blue Bombers at their own 45-yard line. Hufnagel throwing over the head of James Murphy. And then Murphy took a shot from Mike McIntyre, the safety who had moved over to try and defend. It will be 2nd and 10.
That time was sort of a misread as far as communication. That time John was throwing the ball deep while Murphy was still breaking on his out. So he was reading a little different pattern than
Gentlemen,
what
you
Murphy
got to
ran.
get off the sideline. That guy's hollering at you.
It will be 2nd and 10. Murphy goes wide left. Jeff Boyd comes out to the right. 11:20 is the time left in the 3rd quarter. 9-7 the score. Ottawa leading. Hufnagel over the middle. Jeff Boyd makes the catch, puts on the brakes, and tries to reverse his field. He can't go any further, but he does have the first down. Steve Harrison and Mike McIntyre made the tackle.
As a quarterback, when you're dropping back, you're reading what those middle linebackers and people are doing so you can detect whether man or zone. In this case, Boyd just read what he saw across the middle and was able to get the ball and try to pick up as many yards as possible.
Ron Engelson is the injured player. This is the 2nd time that he has been shaken up in the game. However, it appears as though he is going to be returning after sitting out for the mandatory 1 play. Been some good pounding along that offensive defensive line.
Both teams have been hitting very well as far as collision and contact, as you said, Don, and the intensity of the defenses are definitely there.
1st and 10, Winnipeg. The Bombers at the 48 of the Ottawa Rough Riders. They trail by 2. Hufnagel gives to Lester Brown, and he's caught right at the line of scrimmage by Michel Bourgeau, the man who replaced Ron Engelson at that defensive tackle spot.
You know, we talked about Lester Brown's attitude of playing against his former teammates. He made some remarks earlier after he left about the team as far as playing against them. Not negative or anything, just that he wanted to play well. And I'm sure the defense responds to that, wanting to stop Lester.
Second and 10. Hufnagel throwing to Sean Kehoe, but he is stopped at the 42-yard line. He is short of the first down by 4 yards. So Trevor Kennard comes into the ball game for a field goal attempt.
Field goal! Field goal team!
A 49-yard field goal try for Trevor Kennard that could again move the Bombers into a 1-point lead. Jim Zorn will hold. The fake. Zorn throws, and Ty Jones has the first down. Tyrone Jones grabbing that toss from Jim Zorn for the first down.
Great play by Winnipeg for 2 reasons. Once Zorn gets the ball, he's left-handed, so naturally he's facing the side that he's rolling out to, and throwing the ball to that side, he's wide open to see the receiver, Jones, into the flat.
Well, Jones will undoubtedly be telling his teammates about his great abilities as a receiver after making that reception. Winnipeg keeping the drive alive, and they try the screen over the middle to Lester Brown, but he's wrapped up immediately by Marshall and Bourgeau.
The idea of setting up that screen pass is to let that defensive line rush in, pass your offensive lineman, charge him deep. And the quarterback, you're going to drop back about 10 or 15 yards, hoping that they'll suck him in. That time, the defensive line stayed up there and were able to tackle the back and get the ball.
It's second and 10 from the 35-yard line. The screen again to Lester Brown. This time he's got some running room. He gets the first down to the Ottawa 21-yard line before being driven back, but he does have sufficient yardage for a first down. Stopped there by Mike McIntyre.
Sometimes when you're running a screen play, you run it once, then you come back and you run it a second time like Hufnagel did. It's probably a call from upstairs because they're getting the tendency. As John drops back, he sucks the defensive line back on him, and they back past that line, and the offensive line is now out in front to give Lester Brown some running room.
First and 10 from the 21-yard line. Hufnagel for James Murphy, touchdown! He cut inside Darrell Hall, a beautifully executed touchdown strike from John Hufnagel to James Murphy.
Just a well-thrown ball, executed pattern. It's a post pattern. Sometimes you take the post patterns deep where you slant it a little deeper. He broke more towards the middle and made an outstanding catch in going up and getting the ball and taking it in the end zone for the touchdown.
That's the 12th touchdown of the year for James Murphy. And Trevor Kennard with the point after moves Winnipeg into a 14-9 lead. The first touchdown of the afternoon. We'll be back with the Winnipeg kickoff right after this message. In on John Hufnagel. Brad Caleb takes this kickoff following the Murphy touchdown, and he hurdles his way out to the 37-yard line. A 58-yard kickoff by Trevor Kennard, a return of 20 by Brad Caleb. He was stopped by Benny Thompson. Todd Dillon continues as the Ottawa quarterback. Gilbert Renfro started the game, but Dillon came on in the second quarter and did a pretty good job of moving the Rough Riders.
Well, Todd knows how to direct that run and shoot offense, and if you get that going effectively, that's one way you probably can beat those linebackers of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Pass is complete to Caleb, and Caleb has the feet cut out from under him by Benny Thompson. He will have a gain of 3 yards. Make it second and 7.
Again, you see a situation where he comes out of the backfield into the short flat, and his ball is thrown very quickly before anybody can react. And if he catches the ball, hopefully he can react and get more yards than he did there, but move up the yards 7 or 8 yards and have a better call on second down.
Dillon has spread the workload around among all his receivers this afternoon. Lewis, the intended receiver on that throw, and it was knocked down by Roy Bennett, who leads the Blue Bombers in interceptions with 7.
That time, Todd Dillon tried to create a one-on-one situation on the backside against Roy Bennett, and he did, but Roy read that ball so well, he almost picked it off for the interception.
A sophomore defensive back last year. He did a pretty good job during one very key game against the BC Lions, working on Murph Fernandez. But there have not been many defensive backs who have made a career trying to defend against Fernandez. The ball bounces to Daryl Sampson at the 25-yard line, and Sampson spurts out to the 35. He's stopped there by Ron Engelson.
Well, I think John Hufnagel would like to continue the type of drive he just had in his last series and to establish himself as the offensive potential as we know they are. He's completed 18 passes in 24 attempts, which is a good day for any quarterback.
230 yards already in this football game, and surprisingly, just one touchdown has been scored. A run back of 10 yards by Daryl Sampson following that 45-yard kick by Ken Clark. 1st and 10 Winnipeg. The Blue Bombers at their own 35-yard line. On the receiving end of the throw is Perry Tuttle, his first catch of the day, and he has a gain of 8 yards, stopped by Jerome Erdman. The Ottawa Rough Riders staying with that 4-2-6 alignment.
Well, they said that they wanted to stay with 6 defensive backs and to allow them to catch the ball, the Winnipeg offensive team, to catch the ball in front of them and not to give up the big, long, quick touchdown as Winnipeg is known for.
However, on 2nd and 2, they make another adjustment as Erdman goes out, and they put in a defensive lineman. But the ball is thrown complete to Lester Brown for a first down. And I think we'll see Ottawa again come back with a 6th defensive back on this 1st and 10 play.
That's another way Lester Brown has a tendency to hurt teams, is that he's a good receiver coming out of that backfield, not only as a runner running the ball, but as a receiver coming out of that backfield.
Mike Hamelick, an ex-Ottawa Rough Rider, the center for Winnipeg on the first down play from the 47. Sean Kehoe in motion across the formation. The pass complete to James Murphy. Murphy working to the outside as a gain of 10. He got away initially from Calvin Lovell and then was stopped by Wiley Turner.
Well, those defensive backs are showing so much respect for James Murphy, in which they should, is that they're playing back so deep that that ball traveled a long distance before the defensive back could get back into the play. And by that time, Murphy's able to pick up 10 yards or close to 10 yards for a first down.
7 receptions, 97 on the season. He came into the game requiring 150 yards to establish a Winnipeg club record for yardage in a single year. And while the first ballots in the Shenley nominations have not been sent out, I think there's a pretty good chance James Murphy might get the initial nod out of Winnipeg on the basis of what he's done this season.
Well, he sure has the credentials to warrant looking at, for sure.
The short yardage offense in there for Winnipeg. 2nd and 1, and Pat Kantner gets the first down going over the top, driving to the Ottawa 51-yard line.
Again, they go straight ahead and try to pick up the first down. I think Coach learned their first lesson on the first play when they didn't go that way and turn the ball over to Ottawa. So it's a good idea when you have that first down yardage to get it.
Where are the white fellas?
First and 10. On the sidelines, Perry Tuttle makes the catch before being bounced out of bounds. He got the foot down, and Jerome Erdman pushed him across the sidelines.
Well, what Winnipeg is now doing is they're going on first down to short passes to the flat and to the inside receivers, backs out of the backfield. This is allowing them to pick up 6 or 7 yards, which allows them to have a good call on 2nd down to put the defense in a bind, not knowing whether you might throw with 3 yards to go or run the ball.
2nd and 4, Winnipeg. The Bombers leading by a score of 14-9. Hufnagel throwing incomplete, intended for James Murphy. And I think Murphy feels that's one throw he should have caught.
Murphy should have caught that, but he made an exceptional play when he came back inside of Dennis Clay. He runs down and runs his pattern, and there's a couple of people, and he beats the defensive back to the ball. He runs what we call a curl pattern when he's looking to the inside. The defensive back is in front of him. He beats him to the inside before the defensive back has a chance to pick it off.
I talked about the yardage total that he's attempting to erase from the Winnipeg Blue Bomber record book. That's 1,494 yards, and that belongs to Eugene Goodlow, a mark established in the 1981 season. Bob Cameron's third down kick. A high kick. Kelly Johnson waits for it at the 2-yard line. And make that Mike McIntyre, who was waiting for the football, returning it to the 9. And that's where the Ottawa Rough Riders will scrimmage, 1st and 10, with 3:44 remaining in the third quarter.
Right now, having their back up against their own goal line, being on their 9-yard line, facing that Winnipeg Blue Bomber defense. That Blue Bomber defense is tough, and they'll come on with that blitz and put a lot of pressure on the quarterback at any point on the field. So Dillon has got to be heads up here.
The final game of Week 16 in the Canadian Football League. The Bombers trying to break out of this deadlock with British Columbia and move 2 points ahead of the Lions in the battle for second place in the Western Division standings. The draw play with Jim Reed. Jim Reed trying to get away but can't escape Darrell Patterson. A Wilford Laurier product who takes the ball out to the 11-yard line. It will be 2nd and 8. .304 the time remaining in the third quarter. Kelly Johnson is wide to the left. He's had a touchdown throw called back as a result of a penalty. Dillon can't find his initial receiver. Now tries to bail out going over the middle, but there's nobody there. And it's incomplete.
Well, Dillon was able to take a secondary look after he pumped once and to try to find a receiver, but the coverage in the secondary was done so well, and Scott Schlegel was just rolling back there in the middle that he was able to pick up the defensive back that Dillon was going to throw to and realized that he couldn't hit him.
Kevin Powell is the injured Ottawa Rough Rider. Many people may not remember, but he was the man the Ottawa Rough Riders received as compensation for the trade with Toronto that sent Condredge Holloway to the Argonauts.
Very good, Doug.
I think I'm just another pretty face. Do you, Chuck? An old pretty face. So it will be a punting situation for the Ottawa Rough Riders as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers statistically have taken a decided lead here with 2:50 remaining in the third quarter. John Hufnagel has held a hot hand again, even though he's only been able to put it in the end zone once.
Yeah, I think John has got the rhythm going with his receivers, and he knows them well. And like we pointed out, is that offensive line is giving him that added protection that John needs to have to be able to pick up secondary receivers.
A reminder that this program is copyrighted and is strictly for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, or exhibition in whole or in part without the express written consent of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is strictly prohibited. The third down kick by Ken Park coming out of the end zone. He gets away a good boot. Jefferson takes it near midfield, looking for some blocking, runs into one of his own men, then breaks free and gets to the sidelines at the 34.
Just an extra effort by Jefferson on that punt return. You try to pick up as many yards as possible and get what you can.
21 yards on the return for James Jefferson.
As a punt returner, you're just down there trying to look again for the gap in the hole. And he just puts his elbow down and gets that forearm shiver and tries to pick up some more yards, and he was able to do that to give the Winnipeg Blue Bombers excellent field position.
One of those forearm shivers was delivered, I think, to teammate Darrell Sampson. Get off my road, said James. On the first down play, the counter with Perry Tuttle, and he's inside the 30. Henry Taylor, the middle linebacker, made the stop. Pat Kent coming into the ball game, and coming off is Sean Kehoe. 2nd and 6, Winnipeg. Gain of 4 yards on that run by slot back Perry Tuttle. 1:48 is the time remaining in the third quarter. pass is complete. Very close to a first down to Perry Tuttle. He took the hit from Darrell Hall inside the 25-yard line. I believe they're going to spot it about a yard short of the first down, but I think we'll see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers gambling in this third down situation as well.
Well, when those defenses are in zones and the back comes out of the backfield, he runs towards the flat, then he's not looking at anything but trying to catch that ball. And that corner or defensive back can roll up and make the tackle the way he did there, as Darrell Hall made a good tackle to stop the first down.
Well, obviously, Cal Murphy isn't listening because he has sent out the field goal unit. And Trevor Kennard will try and split the uprights from the 32-yard line. The kick is wide, fumbled in the end zone, and then recovered by Mike McIntyre. A single point for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on that missed field goal try by Trevor Kennard. And it's a 15-9 ball game. Well, I guess the logic there, if the field goal is successful, it puts Winnipeg ahead by more than a converted touchdown. But with the miss, it's only a 6-point game.
Well, it should have been made there, and I'm sure Trevor Kennard would tell you the same thing, that those type of field goals he should make. Right now, Cal Murphy knows that their team's playing for a second place and possibly a first place finish, and every point is going to be needed. Don't take any chances now.
Ottawa 1st and 10. The Rough Riders from their own 35-yard line as we move into the final minute of this third quarter. Dillon throwing for Brad Califf, incomplete. He was being covered by Scott Flegel, the safety. Well, Dillon had some success after replacing Gilbert Renfro as quarterback in the second quarter, but the Blue Bombers have adjusted in the third, and they pretty much shut him down.
Well, they go in at halftime, and you go in there and you find out the things that our team is doing against you. Last week, they probably saw tape on Renfro and how well he was playing and played against them. Now they had to go in and adjust to Dillon, and they've made the adjustment well so far.
Dillon's pass is deflected. The catch is made by Mark Lewis. He is stopped short of the first down with a penalty flag. That could be a late hit against Winnipeg. So although the Bombers had stopped Lewis short of the first down, with the penalty tacked on, that will keep the Rough Rider drive alive with 33 seconds left in the quarter.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Winnipeg number 37, first down.
Well, that was a break for Ottawa in regards to he just goes down and he runs a turn in, a curl pattern towards the inside, and once he catches it, tries to pick up any yards, and then he gets the extra hit made on him.
Dillon took a hit from Bob Molly just as he threw that football, but the penalty flag was the result of the hit by Benny Thompson, and that is not a good sign for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That's Chris Walby, their gigantic offensive tackle, who is limping off on crutches. Very early in the ball game, he suffered an ankle injury. Ottawa 1st and 10 from the Winnipeg 53. Here they come, and from the backside, they get to quarterback Matt Dillon. Mikolas and Jones applying the pressure, with Molly finishing the job.
Well, when that Winnipeg defense decides to come after you, boy, they send everybody, and Ty Jones is coming in there trying to make the tackle. Well, he misses, but the rest of the pressure of that defensive line, when that happens and you put that quarterback in a position to pull that ball down, you force him back into that offensive line, which is coming from the middle when the linebacker does that.
Well, Tyrone Jones has done a little bit of everything this afternoon for Winnipeg, defensively, as usual, and on a third down gamble, grabbing a pass from Jim Zorn. That hitch screen to Mark Lewis, trying to cut back inside where the blocking is forming. Some nifty running by Lewis, but he will only get about 3 or 4 yards through all that effort. Finally stopped by Ken Haley and Benny Thompson. And that is also the final play of the third quarter, with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers leading Ottawa by a score of 15-9. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers have moved the ball, but they don't have a great deal of points to show for their effort.
Well, they've moved the ball, as you said, Don, up and down the field, but they have been able to cap it off with big touchdowns, which they're known for. They have a potent offense, and they're used to scoring a lot more points than they've scored today against Ottawa. Full marks to Ottawa, who have been bending but not breaking and allowing them to score all the big touchdowns.
Ken Clark, the preparing to kick on third down to start the fourth quarter. Ottawa, in the final play of the third quarter, attempted that hitch screen to Mark Lewis. He was forced to cut back to the inside and did not get first down yardage. So it's 3rd and 15. And Ken Clark has certainly kept Ottawa in the game with a punting average that exceeds 47 yards per kick. Another great kick by Clark. This time it's Sampson. Sampson finds a hole. Excellent return as he works his way out to the 36-yard line. He has that good acceleration. He seems to hit full speed in just 1 or 2 strides.
Well, it was a great move by Sampson that he was heading to his right, and when the defense is going down, sees it, they start angling, but he plants and cuts back against the green and then runs up the field as far as he can go before the rest of the Ottawa defense can make the tackle.
A 27-yard return that time by the rookie Darrell Sampson out of York. And Winnipeg has it 1st and 10. The Bombers at their own 36-yard line.
Go Darrell, way to get it upfield.
I think that's the first time the Bombers have actually thrown that hitch screen this afternoon. They were looking for James Murphy. It falls incomplete.
Well, they were trying to hit James Murphy, but great Marshall got in there so quick and got his hands in the way of John Hufnagel. It just calls for a bad throw by John.
We've talked a number of times about games between Winnipeg and Ottawa and how the Blue Bombers have had success running up lopsided scores over the past couple of years. It was also here at Lansdowne Park that Dieter Brock established the record, completing 41 passes in a single game. Joe Poplawski on the receiving end of the John Hufnagel throw, catching that one in front of Dennis Clay. In 1981, Brock completed 41 passes here at Lansdowne Park. I think Joe Poplawski was on the receiving end of quite a number that afternoon as well. So far today, with John Hufnagel throwing, he's caught 5. The Bombers stopped short of the first down by a yard, and Bob Cameron enters the game standing at his own 30-yard line for this third down kick. A good kick by Cameron. Mike McIntyre takes it on the run. McIntyre looked as though he was going to try and lateral that ball and decided to hang on, and he runs it out to the 47-yard line. Now, there's a penalty flag on the play. It looks like a no yards call.
No.
Scott Flagel was inside that 5-yard area, but the Ottawa Rough Riders are going to take the yardage, and that takes the ball out to the 47-yard line where they'll scrimmage 1st and 10. Here comes Benny Thompson. He was on the safety blitz, and he got to Todd Dillon. That lane opened up, and Thompson had a clean shot.
Well, Thompson just timed that perfectly as he started from his safety spot coming in, and he just read it quickly and got into there untouched. There was nobody to pick him up because the backs had left the backfield, and he got there for the quarterback sack.
And as he got there, he got a hand on that football, trying to pull it away from quarterback Todd Dillon. Benny Thompson, one of the reasons the Bombers were able to cut loose veterans David Shaw and Wally Turner. Wally Turner now in the uniform of the Ottawa Rough Riders. Pass complete to Mark Lewis, and Lewis is stopped at the 53-yard line, short of the first down. Roy Bennett and Darrell Patterson made the tackle. The ball is at the 54-yard line. Now, Todd Burgess comes into the ball game, and he lines up in that blocking back position, and he wears number 16. The Ottawa Rough Riders in the past have worked the direct snap to Tom Burgess, even though Ken Clark is back in punt formation. Will they gamble here? Yes, they do. Tom Burgess looking to throw. Down the sidelines, it's incomplete, but there's also a penalty flag way downfield. A legal substitution, Winnipeg. So, the Ottawa...
Hi, I'm Carl Farnsworth from Evergreen Nissan. You ever have the impulse for an impulse? We got a 1984 down here. It's got air conditioning, 5-speed, stereo, low miles on it, 34,000. Look at the car behind it. You want room? We got an 82 Volkswagen Quantum station wagon, 5-speed, AM, FM. It's got everything on it. You're not going to find a nicer one anywhere. Car right behind it, 1979 Plymouth Champ, 4-speed, front-wheel drive, all-weather F32 tires. You can buy this car for $14.95 right here at Evergreen Nissan.
If you haven't dined at the Phoenix Family Restaurant, we'd like to give you some reasons to consider. Breakfasts at 7 a.m., ham, bacon, or sausage and eggs for just $2.95. Or enjoy a 9-ounce steak and lobster tail for just $10.95. You know, we really should call it the new Phoenix. And don't forget their country music Tuesday through Sunday from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. If you add up the atmosphere, the taste, and the price, you'll have the reason we feel that you should dine at the Phoenix Family Restaurant, 1219 North 1st Street.
I figured that maybe he's going to do something with the ball. There's a possibility. So that time, we weren't too sure about which defense to use or what personnel to have out there, and that created the extra man on the field.
Let's go, Roy, to the big play, Roy.
First down now for the Ottawa Rough Riders as they are at the Winnipeg 45-yard line. Over the middle to Mark Baruch, starts at the 40-yard line. A gain of 6 yards. Albert Fowler and Scott Flagle making the tackle. 11:36 is the time left.
Well, those linebackers come in there blitzing sometime, and the backs have the responsibility. And that time was a good collision by Jim Reed and Tyrone Jones on the play.
2nd and 4, Ottawa. The handoff to Robert Reed. He will be very close to a first down. Arrested by Ty Jones at the 35-yard line.
Well, Ottawa's beginning to get some of that momentum and that feeling back, and they're not out of this game by no means, and they haven't scored as many yards and moved up and down the field as well as Winnipeg, but the game is still relatively close for points.
Well, Trevor Kennard was the hero last week in that victory over the Toronto Argonauts with his 24 points. However, that missed field goal in the 3rd quarter could prove to be decisive here at Lansdowne Park. It's 15-9, Winnipeg leading Ottawa. A 1st and 10 from just outside the 35-yard line. Dillon gets away from the initial pressure. He's throwing into the end zone for Lewis. It's intercepted by Roy Bennett. Roy Bennett with a very big interception in the end zone. And momentarily, it appeared as though Lewis was wide open.
Well, good positioning by Roy Bennett. Initially, after the fake and after Dillon was grabbed in the backfield, Lewis broke open and was behind him. But when Bennett got back there and read the ball, by the time the ball traveled the distance it had to go in the air, he was able to react and get himself in a position to make the interception. This is just good play by Bennett, good positioning to get himself in front of that receiver.
The 8th theft of the year for Roy Bennett. He's just one behind the league leader, Mark Streeter of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Hufnagel is intercepted as the pass is grabbed by Calvin Lovell, intended for Jeff Boyd. And very quickly, the Ottawa Rough Riders get it back at the 30-yard line.
On that particular play, Jeff Boyd was running what we call a flag pattern, where he breaks to the middle, and then he breaks back outside at a 45-degree angle. But what was happening was Ottawa was laying back there in the zone, and John Hufnagel should not have thrown that ball because they were sitting back there just waiting for the ball, and he was able to make the interception.
10-12 is the time left in the ball game. 1st and 10, Ottawa at the 30-yard line. the intended receiver, and that was knocked away by Roy Bennett.
I tell you, Roy Bennett plays really good positioning as far as a cornerback. He makes that quarterback thinks he's beat, and he reacts up quickly. And that's the key. A cornerback, a defensive corner can get beat, but he has to know the distance that the ball is traveling so he can respond back up by the time the ball gets to the receiver.
2nd and 10, Ottawa. They are at the Winnipeg 30-yard line. 9:50 is the time left to play. Jones with a safety or a blitz from his linebacker position, and he shook the ball loose from quarterback Todd Dillon with a backside blast.
I tell you, Don, that hurts. As a quarterback, you stand there and you're looking to your onside, to the side you want to throw to, thinking that your backside is going to be protected by one of your backs, and it's not. And you just take a good solid hit like that, and that stings.
I think that's the 3rd sack of the afternoon for linebacker Ty Jones. And the Rough Riders were fortunate that they did not lose possession, as they were able to recover following the fumble. A 49-yard field goal try by Dean Dorsey. This one will fall short, but it will roll into the end zone, and Winnipeg's Roy Bennett will concede the single point. So it's now a 15-10 game, just 5 points separating these two teams with 9:14 left to play at Lansdowne Park.
ESPN Home Video presents Teaching Kids Football with Bo Schembechler. This 75-minute video cassette is designed to show parents and youth coaches how to teach children the basic fundamentals and techniques of the sport in a safe and fun way.
We want this to be a very positive experience for the young people that are playing their 1st or 2nd year of football.
Bo begins the training with the basics of offense and defense, describes the kicking game, including punting and place kicking, and then moves into drills to improve agility. Bo also stresses the importance of mental attitude and safety to start kids off right in the game of football.
This is not big-time football. It's Little League football, and it's played for fun.
Teaching Kids Football with Bo Schembechler, only $39.95. Order your copy today. Call 1-800-544-1000. Only from ESPN Home Video.
10 is the score with 9:14 left to play. There was an injured Winnipeg player on that field goal attempt. Scott Flegel, the safety, shaken up. It's been a physical game.
Well, that Ottawa team, boy, when they come to play, if they get the inspiration behind them, they've always been known to play pretty physical up there.
Winnipeg, with the missed field goal attempt, scrimmaging at the point. The Ottawa Rough Riders last had the ball, the 42-yard line. James Murphy can't make the catch. Penalty flag. Interference against Darrell Hall.
Forward pass interference. Ottawa number 24. First down.
Well, that looked like a good call to me for the official, because as the ball was coming, they began to react on him and start hitting him before the ball gets there. And you can't put one hand on that receiver and try to deflect it with the other hand until that ball passes him.
1st and 10, Winnipeg. The Bombers now at the 37 of the Ottawa Rough Riders. 8:46 remaining. Hand off. Lester Brown inside the 35-yard line to the 33.
Now, John, and the Winnipeg offense now will have to take a look at controlling this ball. Maybe come up with a touchdown, but don't come out of here any less than 3 points so that they can go up more than a converted touchdown.
Sean Kehoe is in. Pat Kantner comes out for Winnipeg. James Murphy goes wide to the right on 2nd and 7. Hopnagel to Poplawski, first down. On the sidelines, he spotted that marker and took a step inside to make sure he got first down yardage.
Well, Joe's a good clutch receiver. He may not be as fast as the other receivers that he has out there, but he has the good short hands and the knowledge to know where he is on the field, to get into certain areas of the zone and find the holes and know how much yardage he have to go for a first down.
Lester Brown picks up a couple of yards. Winnipeg already this year with Murphy and Harry Tuttle over the 1,000-yard mark, and almost certainly Joe Poplawski will become a 1,000-yard receiver. He came into the game with 886 yards. Gain of 2 for Lester Brown. It's 2nd and 8. 7:17 the time left to play. 15-10, Winnipeg in front. Poplawski again. This time he can't make the catch.
Well, that time Ottawa came with a blitz, and it left him in man coverage, and he just tried to hit him quick into the flat before the blitz and the linebackers got to John. Tried to hit him quick before the blitz got to him.
So Trevor Kennard enters the ball game for another field goal try. In the Bombers' 26-16 win over the Argos, he went 0 for 3. He was 4 for 14 on the year before he had his 6 for 7 performance last week against Toronto. But he is 1 of 3 so far this afternoon. Penalty flag is down, and the kick is good. But there is a penalty flag. Procedure against Winnipeg. So they'll have to do it again.
I'm sure they'll make him kick again. Put as much pressure on him as possible under these circumstances and have him try to kick from a little further back and make it again.
Illegal procedure, Winnipeg number 39.
Sean Kehoe may have hear a few words from the coaching staff after this game. That's the second costly penalty. From 5 yards further back, Trevor Kennard puts it through again. So it's now 18-10. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers leading the Ottawa Rough Riders with 6:41 remaining. Canada's Cliff Thorburn heads the list of the world's best players, queuing up for the Canadian Masters Snooker Championship, October 28th to November 1st on CBC television. Steve Davis, the world's #1 player. Joe Johnson, the '86 world champion. Dennis Taylor, the defending Masters champion and '85 world champion, are among those slated for the '86 Canadian Masters on CBC television. Brad Califf on this kickoff return. Following that Trevor Kennard field goal, gets it back to the 29-yard line.
He's somebody else. The only thing you worry about, he crossed your face. He crossed your face, you jump.
Defensive line coach telling defensive end Mike Klein what he is to do on that next offensive series for Winnipeg. I talked about Sean Kehoe. He was guilty of interference on a touchdown to Lester Brown, and then that procedure call on the field goal try by Trevor Kennard. So 10 points were potentially wiped out by his penalties, although Kennard did make the field goal try from 5 yards further back. Benny Thompson puts the hit on Brad Califf after a gain of 1 on that pass completion from Todd Dillon.
Well, good coverage by Benny Thompson. You throw a pass to a back out of the backfield, and you expect him to get 7 or 8 yards, and this time they hold him to 1 yard. So that's good coverage and good playing and good alignment by your defensive secondary.
Time remaining with Winnipeg in front by 8, and the Rough Riders looking at a 2nd and 9 from the 30-yard line. Dillon has the receiver Bruce open for a first down to the 45-yard line.
As a quarterback, when you're dropping back there, you're taught to either read those linebackers and see what type of action and where they're playing on the field. And certain things will tell you to go back to one side or the other. This time, Bruce was down there, just made a hook pattern. Dillon looked him off and came back to him over the middle and was able to pick up the first down.
1st and 10, Ottawa. Kelly Johnson unable to make the catch. James Jefferson was defending against him. The injury that took Kevin Powell out of the Ottawa Rough Rider lineup has forced the Riders to make a number of adjustments. Brad Fawcett has moved into the tackle position. Billy Kidd has gone from center to guard, and Jerry Hornet is now playing center. 2nd and 10 from the 45. Caleb is open, but he is going to be stopped as he got to the 52-yard line, a gain of about 6 yards by Ken Haley.
Good
4:38, the time left to play.
Good coverage by Ken Haley. Again, those secondary people are reacting to the ball once it's thrown up there, and you get a one-on-one situation with a receiver and a defensive back like that with a lot of open field. You just hope that receiver doesn't break away if you're a defender, because he's got a lot of room to go. And Ken Haley made a good defensive play on that one.
Jefferson is back along with Darrell Sampson for this 3rd down punt. The ball bounces to Jefferson, and he won't get any further than the 20-yard line. Downfield to make sure of that was Steve Harrison.
Well, what John Huffnagel would like to do here is just try to move that ball down the field, control it, use some time off that clock, because they know that they're up more than a converted touchdown, and if they can use up as much time and then come away with some points, they'll be better off.
Winnipeg 1st and 10. The Bombers at their own 20-yard line with 4:05, the time remaining in the ball game. Pass complete to Jeff Boyd, and he is stopped at the 25 by Calvin Lovell. Pick up a 5. Winnipeg looking at 2nd and 5. Former member of the Blue Bombers, and this year added to the Bomber Hall of Fame, who works on the radio broadcasts of the Winnipeg Blue Bomber games. We're sad to report had to be hospitalized last night, suffering some intestinal problems, and we hope that Ed Kotowich is up and on his feet in the very near future. Terry Tuttle on the receiving end of the throw for a Winnipeg 1st down.
Good play and good call by John Huffnagel. He's starting to run that type of controlled offense. He comes out with 1st down, throws 5 or 6 yards to Boyd, and then he comes back and throws the Tuttle on the flat and picks up enough for the 1st down. Keep the clock moving, control the ball.
That's what he did so effectively in that first game of the home-and-home series with the Toronto Argonauts. He nickel and dimed the Argos to death in the 2nd half. Huffnagel is going to run it, but Klein was there, and he could not escape. So 3:04 is the time remaining in the football game as the Bombers face 2nd and 10. Well, neither side has been concerned about a ground game this afternoon. They've been concentrating on the passing attack, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have had more success through the air than the Ottawa Rough Riders, as John Huffnagel continues to direct the attack from the 28-yard line on 2nd and 14. Huffnagel losing yards on that last play when he was stopped by Klein. McCloskey was unable to make the catch out at the 48-yard line, and the Blue Bombers are forced into another punting situation.
Well, the pass was a little bit high, but is a pass that I'm sure that Joe feels that he probably should be able to catch normally in those circumstances. That's the clutch receiver we know him as, and that's the thing that he probably feels he should have been able to come up with. And here's the contact by Taylor. He's been playing all over the field, comes from his middle linebacker, goes 12, 15 yards upfield to make the hit on the receiver.
Take all that punishment, you might as well have the football in your hands. Bob Cameron's 3rd down kick taken by Kelly Johnson. He's caught immediately by Scott Flagel. .239 is the time left to play. Ottawa, 1st and 10. The Riders at their own 47-yard line. They trail by a score of 18-10. Very important series right here for the Rough Riders. The pass is complete to Caleb, but he'll only get a couple of yards. Benny Thompson, again doing an excellent job at his defensive halfback position.
Well, Benny Thompson's been playing well in that secondary. And that run and shoot, you have to react up quick. Or that receiver gets that ball, and he's able to get 6 or 7 yards before you get there and then get more. Benny Thompson is right there when he catches the ball and is bringing the receivers down, gaining only 1 or 2 yards at the line of scrimmage. And you've got to come up with more than that if you're the offensive team.
Complete to Kelly Johnson, but he stopped short of the first down at the midfield stripe. Ty Jones made the tackle. 2:14 is the time left to play. 3rd and 2 for Ottawa. Well, the Rough Riders, they're leaving that offensive unit out there. Tom Burgess signals to quarterback Todd Dillon. With 2 minutes left to play. Dillon gives the ball to Robert Reed. He'll get the first down. He was stopped by James West, but not before he got about 2.5, maybe 3 yards. And it's 1st and 10, Ottawa. They retain possession and stay alive at the Winnipeg 52-yard line, trying to move into that hurry-up offense with 1:55 remaining and the clock running.
One thing positive, baby, got him.
Here comes Tyrone Jones. They picked him up, but they didn't get Daryl Patterson.
Well, they come with that hurry-up offense. We saw them using that yesterday in practice, and they call it what they call a fire, and they set up one side or the other, and he calls the play at the line of scrimmage. This time, Patterson and the linebackers knew what they wanted to do, and they came with the blitz and got pressure on Dillon before he could get rid of the ball.
From that low-angle shot, Todd Dillon could probably confirm what we saw on the screen. Daryl Patterson's eyes seemed to light up when he saw that clear path, with the blocking back, Jim Reed, forced to pick up Ty Jones coming in earlier.
Winnipeg does so much with their defensive schemes and things and changes with their blitzes. It's really hard to get a key, and the offensive linemen sometimes get confused, backs get confused of which one to pick up at different times. So they've got a good scheme of doing things.
With 1:34 remaining, the Ottawa Rough Riders are called a timeout. Todd Dillon going over to the bench to get some help from quarterback Tom Dimitrov. And Tom Burgess relinquishes the headset so that Dillon can talk with the coaches upstairs in the spotting box.
Doing.
Well, Todd Dillon is listening. He's not saying very much as he gets the instructions from upstairs.
Well, when you're over there, the coaches upstairs are basically trying to give you what's going to work in the situations out there. You have an idea how to attack the normal type of defense, but you know they're going to be dropped off, playing a little zone. Then they'll mix it up with the blitz, knowing Winnipeg's defense. Now they're going to try to find out which is the best way to attack it and get a quick score here.
1:34, the time left to play. 2nd and 17, Ottawa. They're back at the 51-yard line. Here comes Patterson again. That ball thrown up there, and it's incomplete. Kelly Johnson was the intended receiver, being covered by James Jefferson.
Well, that was a pass that Kelly Johnson should have had. It was right there in his hand. Todd Dillon did a great job in getting rid of the ball. It was there, good coverage. The ball hits him in his arms, and he should have been able to catch that ball.
You see Patterson from his linebacking position coming through on Todd Dillon, knocking him to the ground just as he released the football. So it's 3rd and 17 from the 51. For Mark Barousse, and Barousse gets to the 50-yard line, but he is stopped well short of the first down by Ken Haley. And with 1:21 left to play, if the Winnipeg Blue Bombers can pick up 1 first down, that should be the ball game.
Well, there's a lot of times you send your linebackers, and your backs are responsible for blocking those linebackers in a lot of cases. And Jim Reed is doing a good job in blocking Tyrone Jones to the outside. At 6'3", 230 pounds, he should be able to stand up against any linebacker or anybody as far as that's concerned in the blocking position.
First and 10, Winnipeg. The ball at the 50-yard line. The clock will not start until the ball is snapped. They give it to Lester Brown. He's going to lose yards in the play. He's dropped back at the 45-yard line by Lloyd Lewis. .117 the time remaining now. And now with the referee, Ross Perrier, blowing the whistle, the clock starts to move. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers could assure themselves of victory if they could pick up a first down. They would then be able to retain possession and run out the clock, as the Ottawa Rough Riders have already used up their timeout. The pitch to Lester Brown, and he gets up to the 53-yard line with 56 seconds left to play. So the Bombers will be forced to kick it away. The Ottawa Rough Riders will get one final shot. If the Bombers should win this football game, they would then have 20 points, and they would be 2 behind the Edmonton Eskimos. But the Bombers would have played one more game than the Eskimos in that Western Division, and Winnipeg would move 2 ahead of the BC Lions, the team that is idle this Thanksgiving weekend. The Lions are probably thankful of the opportunity to have a rest, to regroup, do a little self-examination after 3 consecutive losses.
Well, we know they have the potential to be a very, very potent offense, and they haven't really shown that in the last few weeks, and it gave them time to regroup and think things over.
Bob Cameron's third down kick. Kelly Johnson at the 19-yard line. Here's the reverse to Lewis. He's got some blocking help out there. Still with some black jerseys out front, and he brings it back to the 53-yard line, but that takes the clock to 21 seconds. Miller and James West were involved in a little shoving after the whistle. But there are no flags, and nothing further is going to develop. The Ottawa Rough Riders, first and 10. They are at the 53. They executed this well.
Good reverse. You just have everybody thinking you're going to go to their left on the screen, and then they just reverse it back to their right and try to pick as many yards as you could. They had a picket set up, a wall of people on the sideline. They just couldn't get it far enough down the field to get the touchdown.
Ken Haley did an excellent job fighting off those blocks, forcing Lewis back to the inside. The pass intended for Kelly Johnson. He was hit by James West with 17 seconds left.
Well, what do you do when you have a situation like this with 17 seconds to go 8 points behind? What you're going to do is just drop back and try to get the ball field as far as you can. You know the defensive secondary is going to be way back in the zone area. You've got to find the holes and get there.
Johnson goes wide left. Lewis to the right. Dillon looking for Brad Caleb. It was out of bounds. I think James Murphy actually made the catch standing at the Winnipeg bench.
He also took the hit.
look at the smile on his face. He said, I wonder if that one goes into the record book. Will I get credit for that? So with 11 seconds remaining, and that may be premature, but if the Blue Bombers do win, it will be their 6th consecutive against the Ottawa Rough Riders. A 3rd and 10 gamble. Tyrone Jones after Todd Dillon. The pass is complete to Robert Reed, but he is stopped short of a first down with 1 second remaining.
Bring the lights out.
Let's see where they spot the ball. Maybe it is going to be a first down.
Well,
apparently it's close enough for a measurement.
They get a first down, they get the one last chance to get that ball into the end zone. Just
drop back and let it go.
So one final chance for the Ottawa Rough Riders. They do have a first down. 1 second left on the clock. Dillon did a good job of getting that pass away with Ty Jones in hot pursuit. Fred Glick trying to get the attention of linebacker Ty Jones. He's the linebacker coach, the man who served as interim head coach after Cal Murphy had his heart attack a year ago. Todd Dillon with the Hail Mary. It's deflected to Mark Maroon. I don't believe it.
The nature of the game, anything can happen. 1 second on the clock, and they throw a Hail Mary pass up like that, and it's deflected into the end zone for the touchdown. Now they've got to try to get two for the possible overtime.
There were 3 defensive backs there. Watch the ball. Intended for Lewis. It's deflected, and Bruce is there. So now the Ottawa Rough Riders have to try for the 2-point conversion. To force a tie, Tom Burgess is in there at quarterback. Into the end zone, it's knocked away. Knocked down by Ken Haley, and that will do it. Victory for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 18-16. But, oh, the Ottawa Rough Riders came so close to pulling off a miraculous last play tie that would have forced overtime.
Well, good try as far as Ottawa. They did full marks. You know, that's a play that you see happens a lot, but very few times is it successful, and this time it was successful.
I'm not sure about that play. It almost looked as though Lewis, when he went up in the air, attempted to deflect that ball.
Well, three of the defensive backs were there going for the ball. You should lay back. The other guys are there so that somebody can react to it as a defensive back, rather than the offensive guy gets behind everybody and picks off the ball.
Well, Tom Dimitrov's troops came so close to scoring a major upset here at Lansdowne Park, but for Tom Dimitrov, his second straight loss as head coach of the Rough Riders. He was beaten last week by the Calgary Stampeders and drops a 2-point decision to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here at Lansdowne Park. And that pretty much eliminates the Ottawa Rough Riders as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers now move into sole possession of second place in the Western Conference. And John Huffnagel is moving over to the sidelines, and I think, as you may guess, John Huffnagel might be one of our game stars. We'll return with our Carling O'Keefe game stars after we pause for this message. And our selections this afternoon, quarterback John Huffnagel and linebacker Ty Jones. First of all, let's talk to John Huffnagel. John, another solid performance. However, you had difficulty putting the ball in the end zone.
Yes, we did, Don. You know, that's something we'll have to work on because you got to get the ball in the end zone and score the majors.
Did you feel that a running game was going to be a little difficult to establish today?
Well, we were going to go out because of the weather conditions to try to establish more of a running game, but it just didn't work out that way. Ottawa played tough defensively.
John, did that sixth defensive back throw any kind of confusion in your plan of game tack?
Well, essentially it wiped out what we were planning for all week long because they hadn't shown it before. And yes, it did create some problems in the beginning, and you know, at halftime we made some adjustments, but we had some problems catching on the ball in the second half there.
John, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I think, are still looking at first place. That game against the Edmonton Eskimos really looms as a big one, doesn't it?
Well, it's the next three are big games for us, and if we keep on winning, you know, we'll see where we stand once all the dust is settled.
Only one touchdown pass this afternoon, but how would you like to describe it for us, the one to James Murphy?
Well, essentially they had a weak side blitz on, and James Murphy was running a post pattern, which the free safety vacated, and he just made a nice catch on it. He got inside the cornerback and went up for the ball and made a good catch on the goal line.
And James Murphy took it into the end zone with that good catch down at the goal line, and Cal Murphy has now joined us down in the sidelines. Cal, what were you thinking on that final play of the Ottawa Rough Riders?
It's hard to say, really. We kind of figured which play they were going to run. They were going to run the pick play to that side. It was just a matter of that we got enough pressure on them, and Daryl Patterson did a heck of a job, and we came up with the ball.
If you had a play to call back, would it be that gamble on the very first offensive sequence, that third down gamble, the way it worked?
Well, the way it worked, but we also missed a couple other things too that should have worked. So I guess we didn't think it was a gamble at the time. It's something that was there every time we saw the films. They played a little different defense than what we had seen in that situation. Normally we expect to see a goal line defense, and they stayed in their basic defensive front.
Cal, what was the call? What was that play supposed to be?
We'll save that one for another day.
Cal, that long throw, you talked about the pick play that you anticipated. We're going to look at that final touchdown throw, the catch by Bruce. What exactly happened on this play?
Well, I mean on the last one?
On the last play,
yeah. We were in a 4-deep zone, and instead of going up and knocking the ball down, we went up and tipped it. Hey, that's the #1 rule. Hey, knock the ball down. Don't go up there and try and intercept the football in a situation like that. That's like going up anytime in a third down situation. Knock the ball down.
Well, you had the reprieve, of course, because they were forced to go for the 2-point conversion in an effort to try and tie. And Cal, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers now with a break before going against the Edmonton Eskimos. Have you thought that far ahead yet?
No, but I'm going to think about it now, I guess. I'm just glad to get out of that thing.
Cal, it's a very interesting battle in the West, a very important ball game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, because almost anything can still happen in the Western Conference.
Well, it sure can, and you know, as long as we keep winning, we've got an opportunity to get there. It's not over by any means, and it's amazing when you think of it, the few number of points between the top and the bottom place teams. By the way, you got a score of that other game?
We don't have any word from Calgary as to what's happening out there, but Cal, a final question. What is the situation with Chris Walby?
Well, I think it's just an ankle. We don't think there's anything the matter with it other than a sprain, but we'll x-ray the thing and take a look at it and see tomorrow.
Cal, we'll let you get to the dressing room, and we'll swing over and talk to our defensive game star, Ty Jones. Ty, I'm sure you're going to prefer to tell us about the pass you caught rather than the sacks.
Yeah, well, I guess so. You know, I've been asking Coach Murphy all year long to let me fake and run a pass, and they put me in the on the export team, and when Jim Zone came out and made the call for a fake field goal, I said, oh my God, I can't believe it, you know, and I just ran a quick out, and the ball was a little bit, lost it a little bit. I think he was worried about whether I was going to catch the ball or not, and the DB was right there on me, so I just tried to squeeze the ball and make sure I made the catch.
Well, you proved to him you've got those sure hands. Now, if any receivers have problems, you'll probably volunteer to move into one of those wideout positions.
That's right. I think Huffle put the ball to me.
Tell us about those quarterback sacks. You were in pressuring either Todd Dillon or Gilbert Renfro most of the afternoon.
Well, a couple of times, you know, the guys didn't even block. They had basically just a sprint out. I think on this play, I was just coming on the outside, and I just made a spin move on Jim Reed, and came in, and I just tried to grab him by the legs. He was running real hard, and he's a good runner, and he was doing everything right, and I was surprised that they took him out of the ball game.
Tyrone, when you came in the game, I mean, when you're playing the game and they make a change at quarterback to a guy like Dillon, does that change your game attack any?
Well, not really. Well, you know, we knew that Dillon could run the ball as well as Renfro could. And, you know, like I said, I was surprised when he came in the game. And on that particular play, they didn't even block me. He just had a sprint out to the left side. And I thought they maybe thought that the weak side backer wasn't coming, but I was.
It looked up here as though it was quite a physical ball game, was it?
Yeah, it was a physical ball game. They played well, and, you know, I think we played well under the circumstances. And I'm just glad that we got the 2 points and came out with the win, because it put us in the thick of things for first place again.
Well, you had to hang on. Late in the ball game, we could hear Fred Glick yelling to you on the field. yelling instructions as to where he wanted you to line up. What were you trying to do in the final few plays of the Ottawa Rough Riders?
Well, a couple of times. Well, they block a little differently on one side than they do on the other side, I think. And, you know, a couple of times on the left side, defensively, they weren't blocking like the slide type block that we're used to on the right side. And he just told me to switch up a couple of times. Delbert Fowler and myself have been working on that all week. And he told us anytime we wanted to switch up, we could, because I think Delbert is a better pass cover. So they were sending me from the backside.
You get a break in the schedule now, and then you have 3 really tough ones. Have you looked forward or looked ahead to those final 3 of the season?
Well, I'm going to start looking ahead right now. You know, I think the last 3 ball games of the season are just like playoff games. I feel like we have 5 playoff games before we can get to the Grey Cup, because that's what the games are going to be like. They're going to be dog fights between Edmonton and the 2 against BC. And, you know, we're going to need some people to help us along the road, but I think we're going to do our part.
Well, the final 3 against Edmonton, and then the 2 games, the home-and-home series with the BC Lions. And in the Western Division, it is certainly a dogfight this season, and you can't really afford a loss at any point, can you?
That's right. You know, I think in order for us to get to the Grey Cup, we're going to have to win 5 straight ball games. And, you know, we're going to have to go out and play tough and get the people that are injured back into the lineup and, you know, get our format down and play the kind of ball that we know we can play.
Ty Jones, congratulations on being selected our Carling O'Keefe Defensive Game Star, and John Hufnagel, congratulations to you on another strong performance and being chosen our Carling O'Keefe Offensive Game Star. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers with an 18-16 victory over the Ottawa Rough Riders, and credit must go to the Ottawa team, a team that has now been officially eliminated from playoff contention for a stout performance this afternoon.
Well, they played very well in their defense. They knew that they had to get to John Hufnagel, which they didn't necessarily do, but they slowed up the completions of him, even though he completed a lot and got down the field, was not be able to get the score. They bent a little bit, but they didn't break, and they played well on defense.
Well, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had quite an edge statistically. However, the Ottawa Rough Riders, with that Hail Mary pass in the final play, did make it a close ball game. 338 yards net offense for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 265 for the Ottawa Rough Riders, as John Hufnagel completed 28 of 39 attempts. And for the Ottawa Rough Riders, with Todd Dillon going most of the way after replacing starter Gilbert Renfro, 23 of 41 completions. 2 interceptions, Ken Haley and Benny Thompson coming up with thefts for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and those were very key in the ball game.
Well, that defense of Winnipeg we know has been tough, and the pressure that they put on the linemen and the linebackers makes it very tough for any quarterback.
Let me give that interception to Roy Bennett, not Benny Thompson, as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers win it by a score of 18-16. Now let's go to CFL.